All right, ladies and gents, we are back for some more ESL 1 Malaysia Southeast Asia close qualifier actions here in the lower bracket semifinals for the lower bracket. It is John X here with Automo. Automo, we've got T1 versus Polaris lined up. What are you expecting from both of these teams?
Well, I mean, you're looking at the DPC historically, it seems like T1 did a better job. Polaris, I don't think they took a single series in the third tour. They were one of the teams that were relegated. T1, not fantastic. They got, I think, 5th place overall, but still reasonable. However, during this tournament, I do believe that T1 lost to TNC and Polaris was able to beat TNC. So by the law of something, that means that basically Polaris beat TNC or beat T1, right? That's how it works. I believe that's how it works.
In one way, Polaris got knocked down by SMG, and T1 beat SMG as well. So there's also that reversal there with T1 on the edge there by that law of causality almost. I'm not even sure.
There's a law of something, where it's like when something beats something, then that means it can beat something else. Yes, I know. Either way, by law, that means that either team can really take it. I do think T1 probably a little bit better on paper, and that's where I'm going to go with. But this tournament has been pretty up. We've seen teams, Division 2 teams beat Division 1 teams, so anything can go. I wouldn't count that Polaris out at all.
Yeah, and they've also had a bit of a roster shakeup for both sides. Polaris kind of going back with AU, their coach, coming in as a player, and again, taking Force back in at the end of DPC Tour 3. For T1, Zephyr has been gone, and they've had Raging Potato playing on a pause 4, so the Indonesian duo is kind of taken away. Do have a bit of the draft already developing here, Ottomans. We will switch into it. Already seeing some of those initial bans. The Dawnbreaker and the Enigma being taken out by Polaris. T1 taking care of that Warlock and Viper and straight into the Marcy for their opener. So we've seen a lot of Marcy today, mainly Town leaning into it, but when it does have a good game, it does look pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm fine with the Marcy. It's a blink into 8 lens gives you a lot of ability to control people, so that's kind of nice. Polaris, they start off with the Tiny, as well as the Death Pop. This hero seems to be very popular this turn, either picked or banned in most of the games we've seen. And Polaris making sure that they get it for themselves here. Not the best hero to have when you're up against the Marcy. And now Razors, that's interesting. It's the I take your life, you take my damage duo. That favors a little bit more of the Death Prophet if you have the ultimate, but not then it favors the Razor.
And you still have a little bit of flex for both sides as well. I believe Polaris leans towards the Tiny support flex for Xavius, or in this case, probably Raging Potato. It could be something that comes out. But you also have Lelouch who can play it mid, along with the DP flex there. So a lot of options for Polaris. For T1, it does feel like we'll probably see Gabby on the Razor more than anything else. Maybe Cuckoo on the Razor as well. Not so much a Carl hero per se on the mid. So kind of keeping your flex on the side lanes there. As you mentioned, though, it doesn't feel like you have the best answer for the Marcy, but with the openings, you did favor the DP a little bit in the push. Overall, what do you seem to prefer with the first 2 picks?
I guess I kind of like Polaris, but T1 does have a little bit more flex because, in the laning stage, they can put Razor in the offlane or the carry role depending on what matchup they think is best for the Razor, which is kind of nice. Polaris, I also think they have to go for some sort of carry that either doesn't rely overly much on physical damage, or I don't think exists, or a carry that has damage from illusions, CK as well as the Terrorblade. And I do believe Polaris plays quite a lot of Chaos Knight themselves, so that could be an option for them.
And they've still got ways of kind of dealing with the Razor down the line. We have seen some slower Razor games, as we saw in the last series, of course, in that game 2 there for Boom versus Talon. We'll see if T1 can kind of get that faster Razor game. Going back to this, I mean, we've seen this duo of Razor and Marcy before. Maybe not today, but it has popped up a lot in the DPC. And it does have a lot of potential, right? You have the Dispose and Static Link. That can be nice if you are running that Marcy support in that lane.
But you're also up against a Tiny who can toss people away.
Yeah, it's not as straight cut for T1 to kind of get max value there for the Razor, at least until the BKB flies on, and still dependent on what they want to do with that Tiny. So when you see this Tiny, do you prefer it on the support role, or do you kind of enjoy it more in mid? I mean, we have seen Yopaj with a mid Tiny just pop off way hard.
I'm generally a person who doesn't like supports who can only focus mostly on like displacing enemies. Like Marcy, Tiny, I generally prefer to see them as core. Marcy, not so much, but Tiny feels like if he gets a fast blink dagger as a support, he does well. If not, he really falls off. So I kind of prefer him as a core a little bit more. T1, they still have their Treant Protector, which is something that I believe is their most played hero this patch. That could help them quite a bit against the Death Prophet push. It's mostly physical damage coming out from Death Prophet's ultimate anyway, so could be a good game for the Treant here.
Yeah, it certainly could. I think the one thing again for T1, usually when they pick something like Treant, there's a little bit of flex between Whitemon and Zephyr. Again, they've changed the formula here with Raging Potato in, so I don't know if that's going to affect the viability of that Treant for them to kind of flex it between 4 and 5, and farm priority changing up there. We'll find out for T1. Polaris do have to pick up in this phase. I mean, with how open the Tiny and DP is, there's still the potential for, say, a DP support as well, though not as common. Is there anything else, any direction you want to see Polaris take their draft in?
They do play a lot of Mars, but if they pick a Mars that's kind of, showing off the Death Prophet, I think they could go for something like position 5. Because even at position 4, like, okay, we're not going to play position 5 Tiny, so I do think they could go for some sort of position 5. That won't reveal too much. What are the positions 5 they tend to play? Keep Up the Light, Snap. Oh, Clockwork comes out. Interesting. A good hero to hold people down, especially like the Razor, but you are up against Marcy. I don't know if I love the Clockwork, but it can work pretty well with the Death Prophet. You cog them right back into the Spirit Siphon, to the ultimate. It could go well. So it's not bad.
Gives him a lot of reach as well, right? Once the hook shot's up, you can get extra aggressive on the clock. And does that seem like more of a support pickup? I mean, we've seen a little bit of core Clockwork. I don't know if it's something that should be prioritized. Do you kind of like the possibility of perhaps a 5 Clockwork, a Tiny 4, if players go that route?
I think so. I mean, or it could be a core Tiny and supports Clockwork. But either way, I'm not a big fan of core Clockwork in general. I think the hero is fine as a support. I don't think that much more, extra farm really helps him that much. T1, though, is still feeling like the Treant could be a good pickup. They also tend to pick something like the Bane wouldn't be so bad, as well as the Dragon Knight. There's a lot of physical damage coming out from Polaris, so Dragon Knight, I guess this sort of damage over time, physical damage, could be pretty solid for Carl here. We'll see what they go with.
Yeah, still fairly open for T1. Still have to see them kind of pick up here, and they will take the Winter Wyvern, so that gives them a little bit more team fight. Maybe potentially flex on the mid, but again, that's mainly SMG that does it with Moon. Again, I don't think that's really a Carl pick on the mid, so likely our Wyvern 5 and the Marcy 4. Do you see a lot of applications for the Winter Wyvern here? It doesn't feel like you have the biggest curse target to go on.
Yeah, because the other guys, here we go, they go with the Monkey King for T1. But yeah, it's like you said, when you throw the Winter's Curse, it's not like Death Prophet or Clockwork we're going to do much damage. Tiny, yes, if he's a core, but if he's a support also, it's not going to do too much. So this Winter Wyvern pickup, it does feel like it's more to mitigate that physical damage. I was talking about the Dragon Knight. Winter Wyvern does help you a lot with the, it's called, well, I called Embrace. Thank you. I got it. I got it in the end. My Alzheimer's not fully there right just yet. But yeah, the Cold Embrace pretty good against the Death Prophet. But I don't know. Their stuns from T1 are mostly going to be the Marcy Dispose, the Monkey King Boundless Strike. Not too much. I kind of like the Polaris control a bit more. Yeah,
it does seem like Polaris does have more aggression with how often they can jump in, how often they can pin you down here, and they will tie that up with a puck as well. So that should be our Lelouch mid. We've had a lot of talk about the puck. We haven't seen it today, but it does slide through for Polaris. And we always talk about how slippery it is. You went back to the stuns on T1. The Dispose, Boundless, is that enough for a puck?
Barely, like the Marcy has to be right there, because if you're off by just a tiny bit, the puck will get away. And Boundless Strike is not the longest, and it's very long long range, but not very long duration. And yeah, it's fine. I like the control from Polaris quite a bit more. And for Polaris, they definitely either need a carry or a position or a support, depending on where the Tiny goes. You mentioned it's most likely going to be a tiny support. I kind of feel the same way here, and I like it because you can just jump on the Monkey King, throw him out of Wukong. That'll be pretty good. Separate people from the Razor, maybe save someone who's been disposed. There's a good, it's a good game for a tiny support.
Yeah, he's got a lot of play here. See that DK band out that you were mentioning? So Polaris themselves want to take it away. T1 still looking for that mid here, and they've been banning out a lot of safe laners as well, taking care of Medusa and Bloodseeker. There is the possibility for something like, say, the Natsumi Nature's Protector. See, NP can still Nature's Prophet. Oops.
Prophet. I was like, Protector.
I was thinking of Treant Protector and Nature's Prophet and mixed them up, but the NP could still come out, and that is a Natsumi special. So they could go that route if they wanted to here as well. For T1, any mids you see that kind of works against the puck here?
Fortunately, not really. I mean, they could go for something. I like the ban on the Dragon Knight because that would have been one hero who, doesn't beat the puck, but just sustains it. Kunkka kind of can do the same thing as well. So, yeah, I don't think that there's a hero that just beats puck flat out. They might go for something else. Maybe they go for the Keeper of the Light, long range hero. Lots of magic damage would be pretty good for them. I don't know. I feel like that might be something. And T1 does play a fair amount of that. So they go with it, or they go for something else.
Still fairly open.
TA is also a solid option for them. That burst damage could be pretty good. I like TA. The only thing that really gets rid of refraction charge is the avalanche, and that's about it.
Yeah, they've got a lot of ways of just keeping that TA alive here for T1. One thing to note as well, with the Monkey King likely are safe. I mean, we mentioned the Razor being core for Cuckoo perhaps in the offlane. They've also run a support Razor on T1 for Whitemon. So they could go that route, something funky, and a Winter Wyvern mid, still again, not Carl's style. And they will go Visage, so I think that's just straight up the Cuckoo hero offlane. Begs the question, what's mid? Mid Wyvern? Mid Razor?
We'll find out very soon. And Polaris, they only have about 20 seconds to figure out what carry they want to go with here. Chaos Knight still feels like the pickup for me, just because you get that illusion damage. Terrorblade's not an option. You can maybe drag Monkey King out of Wukong. You have to be worried, of course. You're up against a Winter's Curse, so that's all those illusions add up, but it's still the best option against the Razor. You go with Weaver. All right, a good way to sort of separate from the Razor. Interesting option. Is it actually going to be even a core Weaver? We'll have to wait for a second to find out. And yeah, it's like you said, there's going to be the offlane Visage and Carl on the mid Razor versus Puck.
Okay, not too left field. Again, we don't see Carl playing that all too often on the mid, but it should still be able to hold its own, at least playing with the plasma field there. Overall, with the drafts tied up, who do you think managed to build up a little bit better here, Ottomo?
I think I like T1's draft a little bit more. I'm not sure how I feel about this mid Razor for Carl, but he's great with those stable laners, like the Dragon Knight. So Razor tends to be that way as well. So I don't think he's going to be losing too much to the Puck. Puck can make a lot of space. That'll be the big factor. And they might try to push towers with that to take advantage. But later in the game, I just favor T1 a lot more. Monkey King, Razor, Visage. You have the save from the Winter Wyvern. I like it. I like T1's draft a little bit more. Polaris could pull it out, but it has to be on the Puck.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure on Lelouch to perform on that mid. I think the one concern I have as well for T1 here, Ottomo, is catching the Weaver feels a bit tough. You mentioned catching the Puck already being tough for, say, the Marcy and the Monkey King. Same thing kind of goes with the Weaver. You might be able to stun him up with the Familiars, but that's not the easiest thing to achieve as well. So I'm keen to see how well Natsumi can kind of abuse that mobility he has on that slippery hero.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games where it's like, guys, let's not hit the enemy heroes. Let's hit the towers instead, because Weaver as well, it's nearly possible. Maybe if you get a nice Winter's Curse off on one of them, that'll help, but you don't have much control. The Visage Familiars are slow. Balance Strike doesn't last very long. You can see the Marcy jumping in to dispose someone, and the other two heroes don't even have stuns. I mean, Winter's Curse is sort of a stun, but it's not amazing.
Yeah, not quite amazing. You can see as well, this is something we've been missing from our earlier series. Both of these teams love the voice line set. T1 in particular enjoyed him. So you should be expecting a lot more of that as the game goes on. And the tips as well, already getting a lot of them, lots of back and forth. T1 is basically almost a fully Filipino team now. Polaris back to full Filipino team as well. So it's one of those rare cases where we do have a bit of a rambulan going on. A bit of a fist fight between two Filipino teams. Savius saying that, thanks, you finally noticed me. To Gabby with a tip. So a little bit of a back and forth between them. Always good to see.
In the meantime, AU taking quite a bit of damage here, but Gabby hasn't put a skill point on anything, so they're not too serious about killing him. But I say quite a bit. He loses about 2/3 of his life. Probably will be fine by the time he eats the second tango and the lane starts.
Still grouping up here on Polaris' end, getting a run up to the high ground of T1. Gabby not quite getting any skill points up yet. No Arctic Burn, so Polaris should be able to find a little bit more for the trouble. Carl just zapping away at the puck, doesn't manage to get too much. Still ends up being a 2-for-2 on the runes. So, still a stable start for both sides. Gonna take a look at that top lane while we've got time here. Whitemon on the Winter Wyvern with Gabby on the Monkey King laning up against Xavius on the Tiny and Force on the DP. So, how do you feel about this lane up top?
I kind of favor the Monkey King as well as the Winter Wyvern. A good lift by the Tiny could get a kill on the Winter Wyvern, but overall, I like it. They got a good amount of slows, they got a good amount of damage here. They should be able to do something. By the way, AU was able to get a nice D-ward in the bottom lane. They spot out that Beijing put a cliff ward, and he was able to get it, so that's a solid start for him.
Just taking away a little bit of that vision. And down bot, of course, AU is hanging around with Natsumi on the Weaver. Already a good dispose out onto AU. Can't underestimate the damage from Cuckoo. But that Soul Assumption does find that kill. So first blood already for Cuckoo. The aggression coming out. Is this something that just kind of builds up for T1? You've got the Visage off. You've got a Marcy. You've got a lot of jump and damage to play with here.
Yeah, and they're going to be targeting this Clockwork quite a bit, you know. Once he gets level 2 and he has Cogs, that's a little bit better. But it all comes down to, what I love about those small decisions end up making a big impact. All came down to that harass in the top bounty. They harassed AU to very low HP, used all his tangos. He goes back to the lane. He doesn't have as much health. He's half life, and they just kill him. It's crazy to see how these small things happen. Although Natsumi's taking a little harass as well.
He's copying some damage there. He does have to kind of watch out and the uptime on that Chikuchi isn't too high just yet. 15-second cooldown to level 1. You also saw AU having to smoke back down to get into that lane. Does have 2 sets of tangos. It's a little bit more coming through, but do you expect any counterplay coming out here from the side of Polaris as well? Like, is this something that can get aggressive, the Clockwork plus the Weaver? As they do find Force up top. So Gabby and T1 already off to a great start. That lane, as you mentioned, it's shaping up for T1. The slowest damage is coming through.
Yeah, just how are you, like when you throw back, I'm telling you, he's actually level 2, but he doesn't have a skill point or anything. If you throw back the Winter Wyvern, you can just fly away. If you throw back the Monkey King, you give him a couple of Jingu stacks, he'll be fine. It doesn't have the same ability for Polaris. Like, it feels like a very defensive lane for them. So maybe they should try to focus a little more on surviving. We'll see. 6-1 on Force compared to the 11-5 on Gabby. There's so much denies coming out for him.
And just controlling the lane really well. Does get the Avalanche off with no toss back. As mentioned, Gab just building up those Jingus now. Has the full stack onto Xavius and should just melt away. The damage is there. And Gabby, another kill onto the Monkey King. And again, T1 just getting that strong laning start so far. Gonna take a look at the mid just a bit as well. Lelouch has been kind of struggling up against Carl. Not by too much, but he has built up his once again. Finds a kill down bot onto Natsumi this time. Another dispose out onto AU. And a Soul Assumption out. Stick charges were there to provide burst healing, but gonna have to solve to stay in that lane now.
Bounty Rune still not taken by anyone, but it is 4-0 for T1. That seems like the earlier loss for Polaris, kind of hurting them. Carl, he just zaps the damage from Lelouch and forces him to ground, which is a pretty interesting thing. It's not something I've seen a lot. You don't see Razor versus Puck very often, but it's a very interesting way to just force him to go out the lane.
Yeah, and you still have play on Puck, as we see. You can just kind of rift away from the plasma field, so you don't have to worry about that output. But so far, Carl has been controlling this lane well. 21-8 up against Lelouch's 16-0. Is this something that you normally expect when it's a Razor against the Puck?
I mean, you take a little bit of damage, it's easy for him to get denied. Same thing with the Monkey King. You just can like substantially increase your right-click damage while reducing that. Well, not reducing that. For Carl, he can reduce it, but and yeah, it's hard for the Puck. He's got to get his last hits only with the Illusory Orb and Wing Rift. So there's quite a bit of downtime.
Xavius in trouble again, getting slowed down by the Arctic Burn, but not fully committed from Gabby. A little bit too far. Still manages to get the Jingu stacks though. Chases and force down, slowly poking him with his stick. And that should be another kill for Gabby. He misses one right click though. Splinter Blast will clean up, and Whitemon picks that one up for himself.
Yep, and Gabby is really having a good time in this game. This is a do or die series, by the way. If you win, you make it all the way to the lower brackets semifinals, I believe. Whereas if you, or is it no, you make it all the way to the lower bracket finals. My bad. And if you lose, you're just out of the team tournament. You cannot go to ESL Ginting.
Yeah, every team, both of these teams have to be hungry for that win. And so far, T1's just showing us how much hungry they are. Finding a 0-5 start, less than 1k lead, so it's not really amounting to too much of a gold lead just yet, but does provide them the momentum, the EXP that they're going to want as well early on here. For Polaris now, with this kind of rough start, where's the momentum supposed to come out for them?
I mean, we said during the draft, it has to be from Lelouch, right? It has to be when he's active and ready to make space for the team. Later on, things do get better for Polaris. The enemy's lockdown is not amazing. The team fight from Polaris is pretty solid. Once you get the Exorcism and you got the Dream Coil, it's kind of hard to fight into that. So it's not like it's not over. You know, by any means, it's only 5 minutes to 1k advantage for talent. Sorry, for T1.
It's not the biggest lead yet, but they are about to hit some level spots.
Not yet.
Yeah, Cuckoo's about to get the familiars up on his level 5. Natsumi has managed to work the lane a little bit better, is up there in the CS, but you know, it's a Weaver. It kind of needs to hit that early timing here as well. For Lelouch on the Puck, I mean, he does have level 6 ready. He hasn't skilled a point yet. He's on the hunt.
I mean,
Carl grabbed a regen, but backs off.
I would underestimate the Weaver carry. A couple weeks ago, or more like a month ago, I was casting the DPC for North America, Division 2, and we saw Weaver carry versus Alchemist carry. And I was like, alright, you know, he's gonna trash him, he's gonna destroy him. And then the Weaver was just able to keep up scaling and was able to take him. So, Weaver, not somebody had, you know, he's a legit carry on this Weaver. It can work. Wow, top lane though.
Get the dispose off onto Force. Raging Potato just showing up to provide that avenue for Gabby. Jingu's all up. Takes a little bit more with the Spirit Siphons, but not enough to sustain for Force with all that output. 0-6 now in T1's favor, and this Monkey King is, again, shaping up to be quite the beast this game.
That's a problem. The fact that we've lost Force 3 times so far, he's only level 4 in about 7 minutes. Level 4.5, sorry. This is an issue because you kind of need the Death Prophet to be your damage dealer for towers at least. And that means that the towers for T1 will last a lot longer than they should. The game plan for Polaris not working out so far.
And look at this, Carl sneaking around at the backside of that tier 1. It's a static link, not for too long at the Saviors, but they're still keeping that chase up. Forced into the tree line as well. Carl not under any major pressure. Plasma Field ready. Does not clip Xavius somehow. Still got the clarity running there and should be safe. You can just see T1 with the aggression. That is a lot of space for Lelouch down mid. Still keeping Chase boundless up. Gabby sees Xavius, gets the stun off. Tiny is not going to last for too long. Does stall out with the Avalanche, trying to run away. Gabby gets the Jingu off. One more right click to do the job. Whitemon keeping watch as well. Should be able to feed this one to their Monkey King. Still trying to juke. Arctic Burn. A toss back. Great stalls from Xavius, but not going to be enough with the burn damage. And Whitemon actually still finds it anyway, despite that 3-den. So, again, 0-7. So far, perfect from T1. Raging copying the tower damage to save that siege creep. And Cold Embrace comes out. It's going to be an early push.
Lelouch is here though, might go straight for Raging Potato, get that kill. And there goes Coil.
Only on to one, only on to Carl. And Carl caught into Cogs, but you still find that kill onto AU. They do find Raging Potato for their trouble. Keeping the chase up, Natsumi early on in this fight. Toss out from Lelouch, does connect onto Carl. Avalanche installed, Gabby starting to drop low, is taken away. Natsumi and the Weaver weaving in and out. It's just working out. He shows up top and he gets it done.
See, that's the Weaver carry. That's what he can do. You know, you show up, you're very mobile, hard to pin down, and he comes in. Great, like, I think he did most of the damage. Oh, no. He and Lelouch, the insane amount of damage, 3,000 between them. They are able to get 4 kills between. It's good. It's what they need. It cuts down the T1's advantage to basically nothing, though.
Yeah, it does nullify. That's a huge gold swing going the way of Polaris. And that's a lot of momentum coming out. You mentioned that momentum coming out from Lelouch. Gets great use out of his rotation. And they, start to build up a little bit more. Hold back from the aggression of T1. T1, though, Cuckoo camping down mid, already has that early Vlad's up and running on the Visage. And with the Familiars up, with that Vlad's, it doesn't take too long to melt these objectives.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised that, I don't think Cuckoo was in the top lane fight, but yeah, it takes the mid-tier 1, and that opens up the map more.
Top, raging under a bit of trouble. Avalanche out from Xavius to stall, but there's the familiar stunts coming through from Cuckoo. Is it enough? Natsumi in the front line does have time lapse. Does manage to get away. Shikuchi is maxed out as well. So a lot harder to pin down. T1 though is still chasing. No level 6 on Whitemon with Chris, so no hold. And they do manage to at least prevent any losses from that top lane.
But but for T1, they might consider going for the tower. Cuckoo is here. And yeah, this tower is already pretty low HP. The T1, not only they're shutting down this map pretty well, which is a bit, quite surprising considering that I thought that Polaris with the Death Prophet would be able to do at least equalize in terms of towers.
Just not able to use force in the way that they'd want to. I mean, he's got the EXO up, but it's as you mentioned, he had a very slow laning start. Gabby and Whitemon were able to run him down. And he doesn't have too much in itemization, and he still can't go out to the point where he can just EXO and look for that tower kill. T1 just still staying clumped up. A bit of smoke out from Polaris, though. Flanking with Lelouch and AU. No hookshot yet in the clock. Lelouch is ready to go with a Dream Coil. Could find Carl hanging around in this jungle.
Tough kill.
Managed to find him. Dream Coil out. Can they get him? Snap on the coil. AU comes in. Winter's Curse immediately out from Whitemon to counteract, and AU's gone. On to Lelouch they go. The punches fly out from Raging. They find 2 kills for their trouble, and the tips are flying out. Carl's feeling himself.
Yeah, that was a weird one, because they're up against a guy with 1,500 health and 2 infused raindrops, while your damage is mostly magical with the puck. I mean, obviously they should have known it. Also, they have a ward here, so they should have spotted all this out. That was just a bit of a misplay by Polaris.
Yeah, just forcing the issue. And trying to jump up, maybe not expecting Whitemon in the back line there, as their vision's only in the forward area of that jungle. There are still good stacks for Carl to clear out as well. Not the biggest, but he's making great progress onto that BKB, and T1 still getting that push going up top anyway. Cuckoo's still camped there with the Familiars, working onto his Orchid. Tower doesn't have long left here, using that Brave Chill to speed up the attacks as well. And they just melted. No defense coming out from Polaris.
It's like they can't really...
just a bit of an avalanche onto Carl. They're grouping up mid here, Ultimo. They've got the EXO.
Whitemon he doesn't have his ultimate for about 15 seconds left. And yeah, just Whitemon shows up by himself, is able to push them away. He's actually maxed out the Arctic Burn, which is... We're seeing, we usually max out the Splinter Blast, maybe 2 points in the Arctic Burn, but he maxed out huge bonus attack rate, 500.
Yeah, and just really good percent burn as well, right? Onto something like the Death Prophet, onto the Tiny. These are heroes that don't really enjoy that, especially the Tiny with his strength scaling. So it just makes an easy way for Whitemon to get good damage off. Smoke out from T1 here. Curse is back up. Cuckoo, Raging, and Whitemon grouped up here, using the Familiars to scout ahead. Polaris, they've only really got Xavius hanging around down bot for now. The rest kind of backing off at the right moment. It's not going to be the biggest kill.
This Tiny is quite far from his Blink Dagger. Still needs about 1,500 gold just to get it. And we talked about how this is kind of an annoying problem with Tiny support, right? You gotta have a good game to get the Blink Dagger. Polaris, they're seems like they might want to fight this.
Hook shot. They catch out Whitemon, isolating the Winter Wyvern, but she still manages to fly away. Lelouch does get the Dream Coil onto the tree. Where's the follow-up? Cuckoo trying to drop those Familiars down. Gabby's still around the area. Still has the damage. Curse out onto Xavius to hold him back. They still managed to lose Whitemon. Cuckoo starting to drop a bit low, being chased down. Natsumi getting the damage off, and now Gabby in the spot of danger gets tossed up. Does not manage to really maximize his jingle yet, but still alive. Natsumi with a chase though. Does find him, but Carl cleans up in the end. Xavius going for the TP. They do not have the familiar stuns off cooldown. So 4 for 3 in the end there.
And overall, you're pretty. I mean, you lost all the cores on Polaris. T1, yeah, it's also unfortunate they lost Gabby as well as Cuckoo, but they're gonna be happy with that, especially if they can turn this into a tier 1 bottom, just like they will. So overall, T1 pretty happy with how that fight went.
They managed to clean up a bit. Maybe stings a little bit to lose Natsumi, but you know, you force a lot out from T1. You slow down Gabby. You are still going to lose this bot tier 1 though. Familiar, so there, Cuckoo shows up once more. Doesn't take too long for that push. And it feels like the big issue often was still that push. I mean, you mentioned that DP. They still haven't been able to leverage it at all on Polaris' end.
And that fight just now, by the way, was one of the best fights that Polaris could have got. They got a good hookshot on 2, followed by a 3-man Dream Coil, and still the fight went pretty negatively for them in the end. To be fair, Natsumi didn't get his ultimate off, but it's a scary situation if you are on Polaris' side. You might need something like to sneak Roshan if you can, or a couple of pickoffs to get back into the game.
Yeah, 7-14, 3k lead for T1. Just managing to get a strong foundation out from the lanes. They are still inching towards that blink for Xavius, but again, as you mentioned, still a ways off. Natsumi playing tag with Carl. Won't be able to get out, but maybe not the same circumstance for AU. Does have the hook shot away. Looks like T1's not going to fully commit. They do get space for Lelouch to shove in top, though. So the puck is also building into that blink here. Has the Witchblade up, some damage coming through. Would the double blinks be all Polaris would need to maybe force some fights their way?
No, it feels like they'll need a little bit more somehow. One's Natsumi going to go for? It's going to go for the SNY, which is nice stats, but not a whole lot of damage. So I do think that they'll need a little bit more after that. I want to say the problem is I want to say BKB on Natsumi, but that's also not a huge amount of damage either. So they can't take a 5-on-5. It has to be pickoffs for them most of the time. Ooh, look at that.
Raging, going very far with the Tumbler Story. This push on to force. Hook shot from AU does cut off Cuckoo. And is starting to melt in the middle, but they share the damage. He gets blown up by that avalanche toss and Dream Coil coming through. Carl still standing forward, has the BKB, will BKB TP away. This Whiteman's caught in the middle, does have the curse, but doesn't see a good target. Cold Embrace to stall. No one coming to his rescue though, and is going to be sacrificed. A much cleaner fight for Polaris there.
A little bit of an overdive there by Raging Potato. You know, he used everything he had. The rebound, the Tumbler Story, all to try to catch the Death Prophet, and then she was just able to survive no problem. And no Gabby as well, so that wasn't the full 5-on-5. Polaris had the numbers, and they basically had initiation on their side. That's their second tower of the game. They're slowly taking these towers down. Suddenly, the net worth advantage for T1 just evaporated.
Yeah, it's not quite there anymore. Less than 1k going the way of Polaris now. And one good thing for T1 though, with how far away Gabby is from the fights, he is farming quite nicely with a Battle Fury. So the Monkey King Battle Fury online into the BKB next. Smoke out from T1 here though. Still have that curse. Carl again ready to go with a BKB on cooldown for 30 seconds. Might not be necessary in the right circumstance. Gonna go in, check it out. They've seen Natsumi and AU. Not quite, but they will find AU at the least. Great cogs from AU to stall a little bit, but hook shots away as well, and AU's fine. Great angles coming through there.
Yeah, and I like how his friends were also there just to make sure he has something to hook shot to. Break, just overall, but a couple of solid minutes for Polaris right now.
Cool. Scouts out a little bit. Almost gets caught out. Xavius does have the blink, but doesn't manage to find the angle. So
Orchid's gonna come out for Cuckoo, which is interesting because, Weaver, it stops him from using all his spells, but he's also going for Sanjinesh. He's got some status resistance, he's got Essence String, he's got 9 strength. I don't know if the Orchid... We'll find out, of course, soon enough, but... the Orchid's good for pickoffs. I'm not sure they'll be able to actually pick off Natsumi most of the time.
Yeah, it feels like they just want an additional way of preventing that time lapse, perhaps. Maybe preventing the puck from jumping around here as well for Lelouch. Nothing defensive coming out yet. Smoke out, but awkward. Invis already out from Carl. He just breaks it. So immediately spotted out. They drop the sentry a bit too late, and Carl still has the BKB. Will walk away. Hookshot's still there. AU wants to go for this, but the backup's a bit slow, and Carl is still moderately fine. Does get Avalanche tossed out with the Dream Coil break, and Carl is gone. T1 not grouping up behind them all too fast, but here comes Raging. Does not manage to get the Disposed Silence, is out. Still running away from that Wukong. So damage is coming through from Gabby. The toss out does not save. Curse out onto Xavius. damage is flying through, catching out Force as well. He is still alive on the tiny though, but rebound forward, jump away from Gabby, and they find 2 for Cuckoo.
Good for. I mean, they lost Carl. That was a great, good move by AU to just drop the center. He's like, okay, our smoke's broken. Just drop it straight away. They go straight, but they end up losing 2. Lelouch as well as Xavier. They do get Carl though. Still not what you want. And T1 all are able to are going to go for Roshan as well. Buyback coming out here. They really want to stop this. Lelouch 10 seconds though.
Yeah, they do have the blink up on Xavier, so maybe expecting a little bit of a toss play. Try to snipe that Aegis away. T1 still staying fairly clumped up in there. Natsumi can't try to scout. They've got good vision coverage on T1 Sendo. And we jump forward. Xavier's with a toss back, and the Avalanche does kill off Raging. Great hook shot onto 2, catching Gabby at the back. Xavier's still dropping low, is taken away, but Force with BKB holding his ground. Gabby getting some good hits with a Boundless. Time Lapse is there to save. And the Dream Coil just to clean up Whitemon. 2 already gone, but the dieback in Xavis is there. So it does even out, and that could allow Polaris to clean up Roche. Force still has some good time on the Exo, not quite enough, and Carl spots it out, gets a static link. Roche is about to fall. Force does get Aegis. Immediately loses it and sacrifices Natsumi. Force, second life, not going to be able to do much with it, as the rest of T1's there to clean up. And a lot of commitment from Polaris, but it bites them in the bum there, Optimal.
Yeah, that was... I mean, we said this. It's T1 has the advantage in terms of team fight, and right now Polaris, they kind of force it. When we saw them win fights, usually when they have the superior numbers, when they T1 overextends. This was T1 fully aware that they're going to come for them. They were like waiting in the Roche pit. It kind of looked okay for Polaris, but in the end it was, what? They lost 5 people. There was a dieback on Xavier, so he died twice. They were able to at least, did they get the Roshan kill? Yes, they got the Roshan kill, so it's not a complete disaster, but very near. It's a catastrophe. Which one's worse, a catastrophe or a disaster? Are they the same thing?
I'd say a catastrophe is much, much worse than a disaster.
Fine, then it was a disaster. It wasn't a catastrophe.
Yes, there you go. Not quite catastrophic, but not very good either. Yes, they are still on the hunt with Gabby. BKB is flying out now. On to the Mage Slayer next, probably going for that Blood Torn on the Monkey perhaps, mitigating some of that damage output as well on the magic side here for Polaris. It's going to be a good way of preventing that burst action from coming through. Still on the hunt, but not going to be able to find the Lucian aside. And T1 back to the lead at 5k, 13-22. For Polaris, what do they play around now? Like, you are seeing Natsumi willing to show up with just the S and Y. Is it maybe about pickoffs more for Polaris with all their mobility and blinks?
That's one of them. Another thing is that, like we said, there's very little catch on T1, at least like serious catch they should be worried about. So you can see Natsumi pushing top lane. They might do something with the puck as well, where they can really delay the game with that. So that could be it. They might say, like, listen, even pickoffs are too risky because T1, they're holding hands. They're walking all together. So I like what Natsumi's doing, just trying to push now. He's almost going to get a tier 2 top just by himself. And now could be a time for them to engage on Polaris.
Yeah, Natsumi forces the 2 TPs up top. No one.
They even smoke. They're going for it.
You get the smoke out down bot, looking for the chase forward, but T1's also smoked up. So they're not going to be caught out just yet. Smoke breaks from Gabby. Monkey King powers right there. We don't see him yet. They're not chopping the trees. Still safe. Does manage to jump in. Cuckoo goes in with the Orchid right onto AU.
Nice
Get
save.
a cost pack on Force. But Gabby with the BKB still wants more. AU holding them back. Dream Coil out onto Whitemon. Hook shot away for AU as Whitemon starting to drop fairly low up front. And backline as well. Natsumi trying to get some damage off. Carl with a BKB, not going to be stopped by the Avalanche. Still keeping chase. Orchid out now after the time lapse. Natsumi is going to be gone. Force standing his ground, trying to sustain for the team. They find Rage Aiming Exchange. A 3-for-1 so far in favor of Polaris is tossed forward. Carl, BKB's gone. He's going to be able to scurry away with a buyback on Whitemon to prevent any further aggression.
A good win for Polaris, and it all comes down to that Natsumi push. He knew that people are going to go back to defend, so he pushed the lane, and then when they saw the people TP back, he's like, all right, guys, let's just go. I love it. Very nice move by Polaris. Cuts the network lead a little bit by T1, forces that buyback coming out from Whitemon. They need to do a little bit more of this. It's not even. A couple more of these, and Polaris will take the lead.
Yeah, I think the big thing as well was T1 felt confident coming in there, Otmar. They break the smoke with Gabby. He doesn't get chopped from his 3. He gets a decent enough Wukongs, but there was no follow-up. The rest of T1 just a bit too scattered to get that follow-through on that engagement. And that's all the time necessary for Polaris to kind of build up there. They are starting to get pretty big on Natsumi. You know, number 3 core right now, not too far behind from Carl and Gabby. Is going into a Lincoln's for protection, into the Daedalus for the damage. So looking to rectify that issue there and just melt heroes. For T1, I mean, what else do you do to kind of try to catch that Weaver? Because once that Lincoln's up, it feels like the Orchid's not going to cut it.
No, but it could be... I mean, what you want to do is Winter Curse someone next to the Weaver. You know, that way you can hold him. But overall, the Weaver is just kind of getting a lot of free reign. They do bring him down to generally in the fight later on, but he's usually able to do a lot of damage, takes a lot of resources. If you kill everyone else, Weaver won't be able to fight. So we'll see if that's what they want to go for. And also, at least Boundless Strike, followed by Visage Feminist. These are all like ground-targeted spells. They aren't blocked by the Lincolns. And I don't understand why these guys are complaining about Mike. Have they seen my mic? Have they seen what I'm working with?
You know how it is. They've always got a little bit of a reason for the pauses. Mike or Discord, they say. Smoke out from T1. Trying to run forward here into the jungle, into the triangle. Could be a decent enough flank, but Polaris is all the way on the opposite side now. Gonna have to make a long jump away. Carl is showing mid, so he's not joining in for this one. We're gonna have to take a bit of an angle forwards. Gabby getting the scouting going. Good position for Polaris here, but they are on the low ground now, so it can be awkward. Smoke breaks in Gabby, spots a lot of them. They see him jump across, immediate BKB from Force, forcing Gabby to BKB as well. Trying to get the hits off, but Force is just too durable with that spell immunity. Sideline, Lelouch does manage to jump the back line along with Xavier's getting tossed back onto Tree. Nice, and big hook shot onto Tree as well. Curse out the save for now. AU gonna survive Tree. They hold Natsumi, but can't really damage Drew. Force the time lapse early. Force still holding the front line with Spirit Siphons, that is isolated now. And T1 manages to find that angle. Great come around from Polaris to look for the rear, but just not quite enough to win out that fight.
And again, like AU is doing a lot of work in these fights, but it's just not enough. He gets a 3-man hookshot into Cogs, and they just can't get to anything.
Ooh, Lelouch. He canceled his TP? Maybe expecting the Boundless is playing tag, jukes out nicely, but again has no escape here outside of just using the orb, and is going to be forced to orb all the way across. The scan spots him though, so still on the chase. They see him. Can they get the angle? Tree Dance out, Boundless out as well. Need more. Orchid out from Cuckoo, forcing out the Yules. We'll have the blink up. Does manage to blink away to safety. Very slippery on the puck, but Gabby's still keeping vision. Not going to go all the way, but man, you can see just how slippery Lelouch can be if the control's not stacked properly.
And that's a lot of time wasted, by the way, by Lelouch. Everyone's up by Polaris. So that teamfight victory for T1 didn't really get them any objectives afterwards. They just kind of focused down, tried to kill Lelouch. So great play by him to stay alive in that situation. Maybe that cancelled TP was 200 IQ. Maybe we're like he probably missed it. Although AU, I don't know if this is 200 IQ.
Yeah, hook shots away, trying to stall for time. Cog stalls out the chase as well. A little bit of an awkward incline from that staircase, but AU is still set to fall. Plasma Field cuts him off, and AU is going to be food for Carl. So another one for the Razor, inching closer to that refresh. Once that's up, it's the key timing for the Razor. Number 1 in net for it, right in front of Gabby. Timings are all set for T1 here.
It's tough for Polaris. Like, everything's going really well for T1 right now. And looking at any items they're going for, the Shiva's God and the Death Prophet will make a big difference. There's so much physical damage coming out from T1. I think it's basically all physical damage at this point. So they can get a couple of armor items, the Vlads, a Buckler. That would help them out a lot. Weaver is finally building damage, which, we've been harping on about this damage problem from Polaris. Daedalus will help a lot with that.
Yeah, just inching closer towards it for Natsumi. Hits his level 20 as well. So has a little bit more damage on the Geminate as well, plus 90 on that one. The right clicks are amping up. The T1, and they still maintain a 6k lead. They're the ones kind of working the map. They see Lelouch once more. Blink forward with the Dispose and the Boundless. Do they have enough time? They do. Clean up Lelouch, stepping a bit too far on the puck. And they get a great curse out as well from Whitebond, just holding down AU, but is enough to find that kill Jetpack to try and run away. It does hook shot down, so just drags him closer to the team, which allows T1 to jump on top of Xavius now. Clean up the Tiny. and possibly gun for that mid.
And by the way, a lot of that kill on Lelouch, all thanks to Raging Potato taking that 0.5 seconds dispose talent. If he hadn't taken that, it's because it was just barely there, they were able to get the kill. And it's T1, they're just going to punch high ground, and what are you going to be able to do if you're Polaris? You have a buyback on Lelouch, but you don't really want to use it when both of your supports are down as well.
Not quite the circumstance for that. They do clear out the one familiar. The resummons there on Cuckoo. Full Scotty up now on Gabby as well. Great take, and look at this timer for Roche. It's going to be up. They've got vision on it as well with the other familiar. T1 have a clean objective to go for next.
T1 just playing that like really nice by Cuckoo just to have that familiar there, and now they're just going to go for it. Or will they? We'll find out. Everyone's alive on Polaris, so this could be a little bit risky. Carl's not around either. He can TP to the outpost.
Smoke out. Being sneaky, going into the high ground, knowing that Polaris will want to fight, and they spot them out. Great wards. Silence immediately out in AU. They get the stun onto Force as well. Avalanche to break off for now. Toss back on Gabby as well. BKB is ready to go, as they are trying to fight inside. Trying to burst down Whitemon before anything else, and they will find him. Gabby, way too low in the middle, is isolated in the cogs. Can't lifesteal True and is down. He's dead, just a bit out of position there. Great target prioritization, but they still find Lelouch. 2 for 3 so far. Natsumi trying to hold his ground up front. Carl now, a massive beast in the middle. Cuckoo does fall. Save is managing to force that way. Natsumi, time lapse already used. Dispose again from Raging, and the chain stuns from the familiars are enough. Only Xavius left. Carl looking for the captain now. Running in. Avalanche to stall just a little bit, but there's that dispose once more. A full team wipe going the way of T1.
Yeah, a little bit lucky for T1, honestly, that Carl was able to show up when he did, because he was all the way bot lane when they decided to go for that fight. It's still showing the advantage. Like T1 took that 4 versus 5 for the first half of the fight until Carl showed up. And everyone has buyback on Polaris, so that's good for them. But they are going to lose another tower, and they should be up in time to contest this Roshan if they have to.
Yeah, respawns are still fairly short. Roshan's still fairly healthy. T1 didn't really do too much damage to it at all in that last foray in. So, gonna have time to respond. T1 not gonna force the issue without Gabby around as well. But that's all outer towers gone now for Polaris. For Polaris, I mean, these fights have been going topsy-turvy. We see some great angles, we see them finding Whitemon. It doesn't shape up to be enough. What do they need to fix up here in Polaris' end?
They need to somehow go back in time and fix the links. It's hard to look at. Like, Natsumi's damage will help them out a lot because they are taking so long to get those kills. That'll be a big deal for them. I'm wondering also if we're going to see the Death Buff go for the shard. The problem is, I mean, you kind of need the Shivas, but you also really want the shard because it's so good. So that could really help them out a little bit for the Lelouch. You know, he's going for the Lincolns. That's going to take some time, and it's not really going to be a big game changer. So maybe a shard for the Death Prophet as the day goes for Natsumi.
I'm just looking for a little bit more itemization here. The Fear coming through from Force could be good. And again, that full Daedalus for Natsumi. Still a ways off here for the Weaver. T1 with the Aegis up. Going to be looking to play. Gabby scouting forward again on the Monkey. Gets a Paladin Sword from Cuckoo as well, clearing out a neutral from the high ground. And be feeling good. Taking the outpost. Revealing their position, so Polaris will have time to back off. Natsumi is still scurrying around here, though.
They are pushing top for Polaris, so they are, they want to try to take this tier 2, maybe force someone, or maybe not. Lucian's going mid. I'm like, is he going mid? Is he going top? This guy's confusing me. I'm sure his opponents are equally confused. But yeah, he is cutting the creep wave here, which is what he has to do. Xavius, though, lucky with the Spire Legs, able to keep some space between him as well as Raging Potato. In the meantime, though, T1, they're knocking on the bottom tier 1.
Yeah. Going on to that tower there down bot. Immediate TP's out. Avalanche toss to stall just a bit, clearing out the creep wave as well. The Cuckoo's around. He has the raid pack. He is going to be able to get that siege going for the team. Creep cutting still being done by Natsumi bot, so they don't have too much time for backdoor kicks back in. They're managing this opening quite well from Polaris. Backdoor kicks up, range rack stays safe, but they lose the melee. So I believe T1 still going to be happy. Still 3.5 minutes left on Aegis. And they've got the Ags on Carl. So with a refresh, double Eye of the Storm Ags upgrade, that is pretty devastating in these fights.
If they can somehow get like a 5-man coil with a cog that pushes them all out of the coil, that could actually be a thing, but no, it's like wishful thinking. And Gabby's just gonna go hit the racks. He's like, what are you guys gonna do? Like, what are you literally? Oh, here we go. Well, here's what they're gonna do.
Oh boy. Now, double Eye of the Storm just melts Savius immediately and melts these objectives. Carl can just go for the push now, all by himself. Doesn't need to wait for much more. Damage is just flying. That just gets machine gun down. Doesn't last long at all. The rack's not going to take too long as well. Fortify is out, but trying to get the lift back. Immediate BKB by force. Hookshot misses this time from AU close up. We'll get the cogs trap, but no follow-up. As AU falls as well. Another set of racks going the way of T1. They catch Natsumi with a Hex. And he's gone. No buyback in the Weaver.
That's it.
He bought the Demon Edge. They catch Lelouch. Great dispose from Raging. No buyback as well for Lelouch, and T1 have a clean shot onto those tier 4s. They are held back by backdoor. Creep wave still coming in from the mid. They should still be able to have enough time without those two big buybacks here. And the GG's call.
Yeah. Polaris holding that GG just a little bit, making them work for it. But in the end, from the start, we thought, T1 maybe a slightly better team. Polaris had a tough DPC tournament. They did do well in this so far, but with that draft, with the Weaver carry, which can work, but T1's just more solid all over, Monkey King can do a lot, whereas Weaver really needs to be ahead in terms of net worth. Carl did a really good job in the mid lane against Lucian. In the end, Cuckoo just was able to take those tier 1 towers very early on. And yeah, that's how it went for T1.
They just ran over those lanes. It's like what you said earlier in the game, Automo. If there was one thing Polaris could do, maybe turn back time-lapse in the entire team to go all the way back and fix up those lanes. Just a rough start for them there. T1 just showing up. I mean, this roster change was surprising, right? It felt like Whitemon and Zephyr were that Indonesian special duo around for such a long time since, I believe, Geek Fam days. And they've been separated, but Raging is showing us that he's a mean player too. He was kind of the star, or the shining star in SMG. Whenever I talk to those players, they're always like, he's the guy that's the key for success. He shifts out of off lane into the pause 4 for T1, and the impact is still felt. For Polaris, I mean, what do you reckon they shake up for game 2 to improve? Do they look for a much more aggressive early start? It felt like their lineup was geared for early aggression though.
Yeah, I think it goes maybe to Natsumi on the carry Weaver. Try something else a little bit, because the Weaver, like I said, he just tried to aggression, but he had a very good game. Maybe you could leverage at something a little bit more carry-like, something like an Alchemist, where you feel like, okay, late game we can go with this guy, because Weaver, you have to be ahead in terms of net worth to be even, and it's not the hardest carry in the game. Other than that, overall, you don't want to change too much. I thought AU on the Clockwork was great. Some of the hook shots were really good. He caught multiple 3-man hook shots. That's really, maybe look at Natsu, maybe look at Force as well, and that's about it.
Yeah, we'll see if they do manage to shake things off there for Polaris. T1 takes that first game. This is the lower bracket. The team that loses is out of the running for Ginting, so a lot on the line for both of these teams, and T1 already in solid footing. We'll be back after a bit of a break here. John XR and Automo for the ESL 1 Malaysia qualifiers for Southeast Asia. Don't go anywhere if you want to watch more games.
Now I got Jesus taller than Rory, I kick in your door still. In your house like Carl, you lame boy. 32 shots into the last Mac might let him out. Fell asleep in a PJ, remember I ain't have a house.
Doesn't have the time, always talks about all the other guys. Will I ever understand? Without her, it's not fair, I need you back. No more crying at the end, I'll do it again.
T1 versus Polaris. It is John Xfire here with Automo Dota, not Johnny Sins, in for game 2. Automo, what do you feel like Polaris will have to do, and how do you feel like about chat always pointing this out?
Well, I think they'd be, my mom would be proud to know that I've been an accomplished doctor. I've been to space. I've done so much in my life, and they should be really proud of me. But maybe not all parts of my social life would be something she'd be looking forward to. But as for the game, though, what we're looking for, I think Polaris maybe something to do with the offlane. Like, I thought Lelouch did a good, pretty reasonable job in the puck, but the supports had a bit of trouble, and you did a good job with the clockwork. Maybe you keep that, but something with the offlane, something a little bit more aggressive, less of a tower push, more of something that can actually take fights. But let's look at the draft and actually see what the teams are working with here.
Yeah, already have the draft underway. Do you see the initial picks already flowing through here for both sides? At very least, T1 already picking up that Razor. Polaris still hanging on for that first pick, but they do ban out the Dawnbreaker and the Faceless Void. So clearing out some pretty stable heroes that T1 loves to play with. And they do instantly go into the Keeper of the Light along with a Marcy themselves. So there is some flex here for Polaris. Now mind you, they've picked up the Coddle a few times. Sometimes Lelouch plays it, sometimes Xavius plays it on 4. Any preference in this game as to where you'd want to see that?
Gotta wait a little bit more for the draft to come out before, because it's very early, but it's nice to have like that magic damage coming out from your mid if you want to go for a core, because you're up against Razor. If he doesn't want to suck on the Keeper of the Light. So I like the opening. I like that it's aggressive. It also means that it's kind of be. I feel like I like it as a mid. You asked me which one it is. I think I like it more as a mid, honestly.
All right, let's see if Polaris feels the same way and start to put it towards that mid.
Interesting.
T1, they do go with a Tiny, so they pick it up themselves here, and they do have some flex. Again, we saw Carl play the Razor last time. This could still be our Gabby hero. We could see maybe a Raging Potato Tiny, maybe a Carl mid Tiny in the vein of Lelouch, in the vein of Yopaj, really. And if we do see Tiny versus Coddle, is that lane that's manageable for Tiny, you reckon?
I don't really think you'd kind of want to do that. I feel like they picked Tiny as a support to sort of counter the Marcy. What we're seeing a lot is whenever Marcy is picked up, we're seeing the Tiny sort of the counter, or one of the counters the other. They're both sort of displacement-based supports, and I think that's what they're going to go with here. Makes me feel. I mean, as you said, Keeper of Light could still be a support. Could go to Xavius.
They've got that flex on hand here for Polaris, so let's see what the choices are. They do respect ban the Cuckoo Visage and the White Mon Winter Wyvern here as well. For T1, just banning out all the cores, banning out the Morphling, banning out the Terrorblade and Bloodseeker. Might have something specific on mind. Polaris respect banning that Carl Puck, which he has been known for since Dota 1. Just taking away one of those things that he has performed on historically well in the past. DPC feels like the puck has been a little bit on and off for Carl, but it's still something he knows the ins and outs of.
Dota 1, how old is Carl?
No, he's not that old, but he's been playing for a long time,
He's 20. Dota 1 was like, what, 12 years? When he was what, 10 playing? That's insane.
Yeah, he's him, Cuckoo, Gabby, all go the way back, or Meltons. They're all they're young, but they've been playing for a really long time, these guys.
Yes. I mean, esports careers seem a lot longer than they actually are. It's like, you've been playing for 5 years. That's a long career in Dota 2. But let's see. Bloodseeker, Terrorblade are gone here. It's up to Polaris. What are they going to go with? Will they take a support? They kind of reveal that the Keeper of the Light is going to go mid. So maybe they'll take an offlaner here just to keep that flex. What could they go with here? It could be something that has to go up against the Razor. Mars is I think Mars is one of Polaris' most picked heroes. We haven't seen them. Yeah, it's actually Polaris, Pangolier, and Mars are their most picked heroes. We'll see if they want to go for either one of these. Yeah,
I think back then though, Polaris was playing in the early parts of the DPC with Nevermind. So it was Nevermind, Mars, which was on point. Lelouch Lelouch plays it a little bit mid. You see Force played a lot in the offlane as well, so it could be a comfort pick. It's funny that the Mars is completely ignored, because, again, for the past day or so, we've seen a lot of that, as Polaris go with a Chen. So, it's maybe channeling a little bit of what we saw from Boom with Skem and the Chen, and just playing with that early push. And they've got the Kot to clear out the waves. They've got the Chen with the army. the 10 come out. Do you like the direction they're going? It's still going in on push. They have a little bit of fight, but does this fix a little bit of the issues you had with last draft?
I don't know. I don't really like the Chen coming out now. I don't mind if it came out fourth pick. Like, that's not the issue. Just feels like they revealed a lot. They're like, oh, this is our Keeper of Light mid. I kind of felt that might be Keeper of Light mid when they banned the puck, because I thought, oh, they just want to make sure the Keeper of Light has all his mobility. But there's a certain lack of damage. There's a good amount of push, though. And look at that. The Doom comes out for T1. I like this pick quite a lot, although you are up against some very mobile save heroes right here.
Yeah, they do have at least maybe the Dispros can play. Keeper is fairly fast anyway. You've got some healing from Chen, but this is a T1 special that they've been running since the days of 23 Savage on T1 and the last TI and the last, what was it, Animator as well. So we'll see. It is flexible enough for T1. I believe Gabby can play it safe lane, Carl can play it mid, Ku can play it off lane, so it's pretty open as to where they could toss it around here. And as you mentioned, this could be one way of kind of just jumping in, getting at least one hero out. The Coddle seems like a big target. It's just a follow-through damage. We've seen that Chen Sustain actually play a big part, and they go with the Zeus on T1. So still that flex open. Could be a support Zeus, could be mid. Any preference for where you'd want to see that flex end for T1 here?
I kind of like to see this just go mid, just because you kind of have this two long-range spellcasters. Both of them will just go to the side camp and farm. So I like that. Doom could go to the offlane. You still have Razor as a carry, so maybe T1 will go for a support last pick. Or they could go mid and flex the Zeus to support with the Tiny. So it's very flexible on T1. And sometimes your brain starts exploding like, oh my god, this could go anywhere. For Polaris, much more controlled though. Chen, Marcy support, and Keep Light mid. They got to get some sort of meat in the front. And I still think Mars could be a good option for them.
Yep, could still fit in. And I think we have to remember as well that that flex for T1, they could go weird again with Whitemon support Razor. He's done that before. It has been fairly mixed in success, but it's something T1 can flex super hard if they want to. Polaris go into the Raid King here. One of Natsumi's more preferred heroes. It's been a while since we've seen a lot of Raid King go. It does build into that push, right? Like you've Chen Army, Skeletons, 2 live, so he's not a great Doom target. Could be a pretty good Raid King game here.
I just like the fact that we were saying, first, the Doom target, he's great. You want to Doom him, he comes back to life. Razor, you want to take his damage, he comes back to life as well with the full damage. So it's a nice Wraith King game. It also helps with that problem that I was saying, that you need some sort of meat in the front line. You need someone up there. Ironically, the bony guy is going to be the meat of the front line, but still, he's still the body that you're going to send forward. So I like the Wraith King pick a ton.
Yeah, it can provide a lot of what Polaris is missing here. For T1, how do you handle the Wraith King? It doesn't feel like they've got room for counterpick of sorts. I'm not sure if there even is a clear counterpick for the Wraith King. How do you kind of deal with that in T1's end?
They are going to have some problems with that, won't they? Because it's up, like, you want to sort of maybe Doom the Keeper of the Light or Doom the Wraith King, then you want to use the Static Link on his second life. Like, the 2 life thing is going to present a big problem for them. We'll see how T1 is going to deal with it. I wouldn't mind if they might consider going something like a Faceless Void carry, put the Zeus and Tiny as support, Razor offlane or mid, and same thing and put the Doom as the other core role. That could help you out. Like, you need some sort of second in life in the fight, like you can't just throw everything you have in the beginning of the fight, like Doom and the Static Link.
Yeah, they've got to find something additional there. I think considering how T1's been drafting, though, it does feel like they last pick Cuckoo Hero. Like last time, again, the Visage came out in the last pick. So they could go for something weird, like, say, support Doom, Safe Lane Razor. Could be something that comes out. It's awkward, but I guess there's a play you can make with Infernal Blade Stun and just running down with a Razor. Could be one way. With something else for Cuckoo to manage the Wraith King. You can see Polaris expecting a little bit of that weirdness. They are banning Grimstroke for the double Doom. Some of the utility there. And taking their time in that last ban. Not too much reserve time left for Polaris,
10
though.
seconds remaining.
Yeah, for Polaris, they need an offlaner, because I can't imagine what's going to be Marcy offlane, Wraith King offlane. Those are options, but not really feeling it. For Polaris, like we said, the Mars is still in the pool. That is an option for them if they choose to go for it. Pangolier as well. I think Pangolier would be a pretty solid option, because even if you get doomed while rolling, you kind of don't really care. So It also gives you that magic immunity, so you can jump on the Zeus, control him, because they don't really have catch unless the Wraith King gets Blink Dagger. Marcy as well, you have the rebound, but you're basically going to lose the Mars every time you do that. So I like the Pangolier pick for Polaris.
All right. We'll see if they will pick it up. T1 will have to go first, kind of close out the flexibility here. And again, you see Polaris just respecting the fact that there is flex. They ban at the Kunkka along with Grimstroke, so support and core bans. Still figuring that T1 can go either way with its last pick. A lot of time to think in the last pick as well. If they do go with a different Cuckoo hero, anything left in the off lane that kind of strikes your fancy, or maybe anything left on the safe lane that could fix this up for T1?
For T1, I mean, I still feel like Faceless Void wouldn't be so bad. Just because, like I said, you could just throw everything on the rating who they go with. They go with Mirana. Okay, so all right, so they have their cores with the Doom, Zeus, and the Razor, and now they're just gonna that position 4 Mirana. So Tiny 5 or Zeus 5 and Tiny 1, something like that. It's very flexible from T1. It's basically whatever you want. For Polaris, though, we're gonna see an offlaner, and see where they go with. They only have 10 seconds left. Pangolier.
Yeah, Pango fits in. The Mars, as you mentioned, fits in, Automo. So, few options left. They'll go with Enigma with a Black Hole and go all in on push. They've got Eidolons, they've got the Creep Army, they've got the Skellies coming out. Do you like that last pick, Enigma? We've seen the offlane Enigma today. It didn't look particularly amazing in tough game, but you don't have a Rubik to worry about.
It's going to be, by the way, it's going to be the carry Doom and the offlane Razor and the mid Tiny. So good tempo coming out from T1. As for Enigma, in this game, there is 4 of the heroes have a way to stop his black hole. But to be honest, Arrow as well as Zeus's Bolt, amazing. Doom as well, kind of hard to get. I think it's a solid Enigma game. Definitely better than before. Like way better than the game we saw where he was up against like a Rubik. As well as Invoker. So it should be a solid game for Enigma. You mentioned the push. They have a lot of auras with the Chen, with the Enigma, even Rating gives them a lot. T1, I favor them in the first game, in the draft. This game, I favor them, but maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, and we'll see how much they can get done. That core safely in Doom has been rising in popularity with T1 and Talon. So both Gabby and 23 Savage have been picking this up a little bit more. We Savage a little bit more often, but again, we'll have to see. Raging back in the Mirana. It's been a while since I've seen him play on the Mirana, because it's been a while since he's been on Pause 4. He has been playing offlane for quite a bit in SMG. I'm keen to see what they can tie in there. I mean, if you look at this as a Mirana game, does this look like an amazing Arrow game to you? You don't really have the most stable setup, right?
Right, I was thinking of that same. I was like, I mean, could Cuckoo set you up for an Arrow? Possibly. He's got slow. That's really not much to work with. So we might see a bunch of whiffed arrows from Raging Player. Not his fault, just because the enemy team there's no real way to hold them down long enough for an arrow to be useful. So yeah, not loving this last pick, Piranha. However, T1, on paper, the better team. They might be able to just take it no matter what they do.
And we'll have to see if they can bring out that experience. Yeah. And of course, Polaris backs against the wall. No forgiveness here. If you lose, you're out. You want to make it to Genting, you want to make it to Resorts World over there, play in the tournament, see the fans, of course. So we'll have to see if Polaris can somehow force out that game 3. So do get into the game already here.
Some nice stats from the Zeus. I think 72 wins, 29 losses. That's insane on Whitemon. Meanwhile, Force on the Enigma has 5 wins in a row. Then you find out that his last game with Enigma was like 6 months ago. But still, he's got 5 wins in a row. That's still pretty impressive.
Yeah, you know what? Going back to Force, I don't recall too many Enigma games from him the last time he was on Polaris. So I'm keen to see if they can maximize that here or there on the off lane. And you have an early smoke out from both sides. Carls will fade. So spotted on the low ground. Nice forward ward here from Polaris to cut off any aggression. Should be a smooth time just finding these initial runes. Overall, I mean, you're looking at Whitemon and the Sport Zeus, right? Like we talked about that flexibility come out. Zeus Doom lane seems interesting, and Gabby might be going for a switcheroo. He's already camped down bot, so running the safe lane Doom on the off lane and giving Cuckoo the top lane with the Zeus. Like, it's a lightning teamed lane though. Razor Zeus, right?
I was like, you're gonna go up there. If you're a melee person, you're gonna hate this. But Enigma should fare fairly well in this. You can just deny creeps and go to the jungle. Not too early, of course. Zephyr, Xavius, my bad. He would suffer if he was top. You go up, you a couple lightning bolts to your butt, one for each cheek, and you'd be like, all right, that's enough. I've been electrocuted too many times. And Xavius arrow dodges it. Good for him. And it's going to be just a 2-for-2, nothing crazy here in terms of bounty runes.
It's an even trade. We'll want to take a look, I suppose, at that bot lane, which is a little bit less interesting without that combination. Gabby on Doom once more, playing around with Raging Potato on Mirana. They are up against AU on the Chen and Natsumi on that Wraith King. So you've got the Chen into the Doom lane here. So you've always got the Devour to deal with a summon creep, at least for the first few levels until the higher level creeps come in. How do you expect this lane to go? Because we're seeing Raging Trade hits. Is there any one that gets a little bit more aggressive in this lane?
Nah, it's just mostly a farm fest. I was going to say maybe AU can take a creep and they can go aggressive on Gabby, but besides the Devour, you can just arrow the creeps as well. So it's, in general, Gabby should be fine. When you Devour, you also have that extra armor, which makes it hard to kill. I can't see either side getting a whole lot of kills in this game. In this lane, sorry.
Yeah, should end up being passive.
Carl suffering.
Do take a look at that mid, and Carl is coughing it from Lelouch. When the Kotl versus Tiny, you just kind of stand back with Illuminate. Is there at any point a moment where Carl can kind of put it back to Lelouch here?
No. Yeah, I mean, you're too... at least not reasonably. Unless Lelouch misplays, it shouldn't happen. As Keeper of Light, you're faster than some heroes without boots. Without boots, you're faster than some heroes than some heroes who have boots, like the Crystal Maiden. So you're just very fast, you have very long-range spells. Carl should not be able to sort of get his hands on Lelouch. And he can just go and farm side camps. So it should be fairly easy for Lelouch to do well in this lane.
Yeah, they do at least manage to block off the small camp.
Ooh. Check out the denies coming up from Force. 8 denies in the first minute and a half. That's insane.
Yeah, it is the Enigma, right? So he's got the Eidolon Samike around, but that is slowing down Cuckoo's lane significantly. Still not lagging too far behind, at least in terms of CS. Still managing to get some farm, but the XP gain for Razor is pretty painful, right? And the Zeus support. These guys need a lot of EXP to work it. For this lane, for Polaris and for Force and Xavius, do you feel like they might have some angles? Because the Zeus, without that heavenly jump, does feel a little bit more susceptible.
If it was another hero besides the Enigma, I'd say yes, but possibly if you can get it. So Xavius, he's might be in trouble, and nope, just jumps away. Should be fine. Yeah. But yeah, if it was another hero besides the Enigma, I'd say kinda, but the stun from Enigma is not impressive level 1, and the Eidolons don't do that insane amount of damage. Cuckoo can... he's fairly decently tanky. He's already got a Wraith Band because he knows all physical damage. And of course, White Monk can just jump. So I don't see a lot of kills happening early game in this game. Oh, arrow misses on Raging Potato. Tries to get the creep. Poor guy.
Yeah, just trying to deal with it. Purge creep already up from AU. He's going to be able to get a lot of good damage off just with that. Such an annoying little creep. Just keep chasing. Raging does have the leap away, but... would rather not. Tries to snipe the bounty, and AU actually denies it. The arrow does connect, but the damage has been done. Raging's already less than half. Only has the salve to play with. We'll have to use
Top lane?
Top lane, starting to get that jump onto Cuckoo, and they do find that kill. Not much Zeus can really do to save you once the heavenly jump is expended. So they do manage to get aggressive. They just manage to get on top, and I guess just enough stuns coming out here from Polaris to get that done.
Yeah, well played by them, and there might be more where that came from. Whitemon, yeah, guess that heavily jumped. Level 1, long cooldown, but not that long.
Look at that.
It's such an annoying spell. I don't understand
lane,
why.
Gabby.
Gabby's starting to drop a bit low. The Purge creep again from AU doing a ton of work. No Devour to clear it out, and it's just melting away at him. He does have the salve to heal up here, and he does have the Frost creep with the Ice Armor to help him out, so a little bit of sustain, but Polaris are finding a pretty good start here. They're working in every lane. They're getting some good value from that Shen. Top, they do manage to catch out Xavius, but he does have the rebound away. They don't quite have the best control up here with the zaps and lightning bolt mini stuns there, but it's not particularly amazing.
Yeah, he also had the 21 magic wand. Whitemon. Oh, okay. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but he dies. That's a little unfortunate. He's gonna be leaving Cuckoo all by himself for the next 20 seconds here.
Probably just looking for the reset out of mana, so figures he can't really do much in lane as a support doesn't really want to trade right clicks, give that opening out.
That's true.
So, a bit of a reset. That does allow a little bit of a pull here as well for Polaris, so can be able to control the lane a little bit better. So far, not too much action yet. We've seen Raging rotate, but AU's there to match the movement. Raging suffering on Mirana, still level 2. AU's actually level 3 now from all his presence.
And Gabby is getting close to that level 6. He's already level 5.25, so he should be getting there before Natsumi, which means that with the Doom, he could be able to get a kill before Natsumi gets his reincarnation ready.
Oh, dispose up top onto Cuckoo with a rebound up, and it doesn't take too long for him to melt. Output starting to amp up here on the side of Polaris, just playing with a rebound and the Malefice with a dispose, and with enough Eidolons, you still melt down a Razor.
Yeah, that's the Wraithman not giving him enough armor, it seems, in this matchup. And a little unfortunate for Cuckoo. Is that the second death he had? I believe so. Second death. And this is pretty terrible. Like, this is a Razor. He's first in lowest CS. This is a hero that does not farm exceptionally well, and he's behind. This is, yeah, it's 1k advantage for Polaris. Doesn't seem like it's kind of a disaster for Cuckoo though.
Yeah, it's a much slower start. Do you think this maybe goes back to that lane swap? Like, they drag the Doom bot, they bring Cuckoo top. Would he have fared any better against, say, the Wraith King? It feels like that might be a better lane in terms of using static link at the least.
I think so too, right? It's like Gabby has sort of more raw HP, and Cuckoo, is he gonna be okay? Disposed again.
Oh boy, just that output. Look at how much damage they do with that sidekick, even at level 1, enough to melt. Carl does show up, has the Avalanche Toss ready, trying to make a play with Xavius. We'll have Rebound and Dispose ready soon. Avalanche Toss doesn't quite connect in the way you'd want to. It's only Carl's the one in trouble. Tree Toss away, damage is not enough. And Carl's actually copying a lot of damage. Jump forward from Xavius, trying to go into Whitemon. Heavenly Jump is still there to save. Carl resets for that regen. Could look for a second shot, but T1 just not finding anything in their favor so far. 3-0 start for Polaris with a 2k lead.
Day and night performance between Carl's coming in the back line. Might be able to get the kill now.
Force with a toss. So toss is creep back, but Xavius is still ready to punish. Leaps forward, has a dispose. Lelouch is showing up as well, but isn't even necessary with the Eidolons. And Carl falls for finding Force. That's a huge sacrifice to make just to find that first kill.
Right, and it's not like, Cuckoo kind of needed the space. He already just teleported mid, though. Carl is like, all right, guys, I'm going to get him. Whether I live or die, I'm going to get him. And he did. He got him in the end, so I guess that's good for him. But huge difference between Force and Cuckoo compared to Game 1. Game 1, the Cuckoo with the Visage, insane game, and Force just didn't have anything with Death Pop. This time, the exact opposite. Whitemon almost disposed. There you go.
Got the range, and it doesn't take too long for him to melt to the damage. Good Avalanche Toss out. Arrow is caught by the Creep Wave, though. So Force going to be able to still run. Tree Toss out from Carl. Do they have enough? One more right click. The salve is there to save, but not enough. Right click out from Raging does find him, and Xavius now going to have to work his way out. Toss is ready from Carl. Xavius is still mighty fast. Toss forward is there. Melee arrow just doesn't do much with a Fairy Fire. Avalanche does clip. Carl will find something for his aggression. That should be his face boots out.
Much needed. Like, considering how the lane was going, that was a much needed rotation. They got both of them. And Carl, Carl, he's actually in the mid lane. Get a little damage from Lush. But yeah, they needed to do that to make sure that it doesn't go out of control, Cuckoo's still level 5, but at level 6 and 8.5 mid. So he's recovering a little bit, but still only barely ahead of Raging Potato.
Yeah, it's just still a lot slower for T1 than they'd like. Smoke out, though. Still no Blink and Carl. Still a ways away from that one, but smoking out with Whitemon could have enough burst damage to deal with any interlopers. Might want to gun for Lelouch. This Keeper of Light has been left alone for such a long time. Travel's already up. Dragging the Creep Wave away. Is going to find that gold. Doesn't feel like they have the catch. Maybe AU, but even then, Whitemon's so under-leveled for the Zeus. They just back off.
Yeah, this is kind of a problem. It's like Carl needs to sort of move around, make space, whereas Lelouch doesn't. He can just push out the Creep Wave.
Cuckoo's just dead. Xavius just sneaks up in the jungle. Great forward ward. Spots out Cuckoo trying to clear out these camps, and he doesn't have sustain. They find the top as well. Polaris, the push is coming in. The aggression's shaping up.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that Cuckoo's, I was thinking, oh, he's going top, he's a carry now, but no, wait, Cuckoo's the offlaner, and that's good, because Cuckoo is he's not having a game at all. And I'm not sure if that's worse if he's a carry or an offlaner, because you kind of need the carry to scale later. That's going to be a problem. You kind of need the offlaner to make space early in the game, and that's also a problem, so just absolutely dumpstered in this game on Cuckoo.
Yeah, I think they are trying to put all their eggs in Gabby, getting the Midas on the Doom. Still kind of playing with a priority farm of Pause 1, of course. So the build-up's still coming through, but everyone is getting sacked for that progression.
Yeah.
As Polaris just take control of the top jungle, cut off that farming spot. Natsumi's got the Skellies to back that up. And he just takes away those resources. Still clumping around for a flank down south. Raging a bit forward here, but they're not going to make that jump out. Just keep the farm game going. Could be a good collapse onto Cuckoo once more. Already popped the Eye of the Storm to farm. Carl is chasing, but goes under a sentry. Immediate black hole from Force. No follow-up, though, but holds him down long enough for Lelouch to show up. Avalanche toss on save is still alive, and Natsumi comes in to rip them apart. Now, Cuckoo already used the link. He's going to be able to run out, but Carl just gets caught with his pants down.
It's insanely expensive space that they're trying to make for. Oh, Gabby?
Gabby held back. Chain stunts are out. Not that durable on the Doom yet. Did have the Midas flying out, so I guess technically that's Midas on cooldown right there as well. Not the best feeling in the world right now for Gabby.
Oh, that's the guy you're kind of putting all your eggs in his basket, and he gets caught. That's very unfortunate for them. And it's looking like Polaris might be taking game 2, just like these initial 11 minutes.
Jump forward, dispose out onto Cuckoo. Arrow does not connect. Cuckoo dropping way too low to that solar bind. Did you manage to back off? Moonlight Shadow was out to kind of cut off that aggression, but they are making leeways down south. They find Gabby again. Did manage to use the Midas, but that tier 1 is set to fall. Gabby's not going to be able to do much to really stop that. Thunder God's Wrath just to find Xavius. They find a support kill. It's not the biggest. It's not the one they want.
To be fair, Xavius has been involved in all 7 kills so far. So even though, yes, he's not like worth a lot financially, but he's worth a lot in the fact that he's making so much space. Raging Tornado, is he in trouble?
Raging. Jumping around. Does have one more leap. We'll just opt to TP away, knowing that there's no way to cancel that right now. Does back off, still creating space. It is still a 3k lead for Polaris here out Wonder, clumping up mid. How does T1 stimmy this push? I mean, they've got the early raid pack and Force. What do you do about this if you're T1? Do you see this plan to stall out for the Doom going well?
It's not going well at all at this point. I mean, you might have to consider something like trying to get an Aether Lens on the Zeus so he can defend. Maybe Carl's going to go for that Blink Dagger on the Tiny. That'll help out once you can get it. But in general, you don't, support Zeus, Mirana, Fortnite. These aren't the best heroes when it comes to defending like their structures. And Cuckoo's just Razor's just nothing at this point. So tough situation to be in. I do like the smoke though. Maybe they can push bottom, see if someone shows up, get a pick off, get the tower. So at least they're playing aggressive on T1.
Yeah, but they're missing out, and Polaris going straight for that Roche with all the summons. It doesn't take them too long to clear this out. Natsumi's going to be able to find himself an extra life if they want to. Kuku's getting a bit of a chase on Xavius, but can't even find that kill, and Roshan is still set to fall. And multiple lives on Natsumi. They haven't been able to kill him once yet. I can't imagine him killing him 3 times in a row.
By the way, Force has the Wraith back on the Enigma much earlier than the previous series that we saw. So, and they have a decent totem hitter in the Mirana. You can just leap and take it off. But apart from that, the other hero's not so good at getting rid of that totem.
It's going to cut out the output, especially if someone like Carl, who's playing with that burst in the Tiny. Not going to feel great to have a lot of that instant takedown potential already gone. And this is before he has his blink. So even with the blink up, it might not be enough for him to get that burst off. T1, still struggling. They've gotten space out for Gabby, right? BKB's on its way for him, in the process of being built up, just lacking the recipe now. For Polaris' end, Natsumi's going for his blink into Desolator. He's going to be heading like a truck, and multiple lives on him with Reincarnation. Just doesn't feel like he's going to die at all. And
they got the bad laning stage really cost T1 because they're not they don't have a very good split pushing group, you know. Mirana, kinda, I guess. If you want to go arrow creeps, that's something, but they're not amazing split pushing. So that laning stage really had to go well for them. Like, it's hard to emphasize just how important that laning stage had to go well for them, and didn't.
Just fell flat. And they did go for that lane switch up, maybe just trying to deal with Chen early on, but doesn't really do much. No, they are getting shoved.
He's got level 1 arc lightning. He's trying to defend towers. He's like, guys, this thing doesn't do anything. What's wrong with the spell? It's not working.
It's just 90 damage. He's just not able to do much. Doesn't even have arcane boots for a little bit more mana here as well, so already out of mana for the Thunder Gods. If you manage to isolate Natsumi, the tossback doesn't even come out. So that's a blink reveal for Carl, achieving nothing. As Polaris are still lined up for this amazing push onto that tier 2. Although, blink forward, Natsumi getting aggressive onto Whitemon, doesn't fully commit. Is the arrow from Raging at the back, but it just doesn't do much either. Xavius, though, jumping in. Blink still in the base. Doesn't have the gap closing they'd want, but free tier 2 to take for Polaris.
I mean, the good point is Gabby is farmed. However, about 2,000 of his gold isn't real gold, if that makes sense, because Mice doesn't help you in any way when it comes to fighting. So you are looking at a Doom with around 6 points, you know, let's say 7,000 net worth, placing him kind of behind the Enigma. And that's gonna hurt. Well, he does have the BKB though, so he can fight, just not all of his gold is completely useful for fighting.
At the least you have some protection out, although Gabby's still getting caught out. And not gonna be able to pop that BKB, he's just gone. Solar Vine and the Spirit Vessel is enough as Natsumi gets 4-step forward, blink on cooldown for a bit longer.
Cuckoo, no!
Cuckoo's gonna be chased down, trying to juke around. Does get spotted and unceremoniously killed off by Lelouch. Another one bites the dust for T1 as they are keeping a chase up top. Keep Xavius alive, they find Whitemon. Hand of God flying right in the nick of time for AU. And all across the map, T1 are just taking losses here.
Greedy Draft being punished here by T1. The stun's not very impressive from the supports. You have an arrow and no setup.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, this Blink and Carl just hasn't been doing anything either. The BKB was there, and Gabby can't use it in that situation. If you're T1, what's the call? You're 5k behind. It's not the most unplayable, but the map state certainly leaves very little room for T1 to breed here.
Cuckoo he's gonna take some damage. I mean, you gotta wait for the Aegis timeout. That's a minute left. You can't take a fight with the Aegis on. And if you
blink forward, Natsumi gets a stun onto Cuckoo. Solar Vine again. Cuckoo just melts without BKB. The avalanche toss back. Cuckoo is saved, but Xavius jumps forward, finds that kill. Whitemon trying to stall. They get 1 life on the Wraith King. That is the Reincarnate. And that is a bit of a longer cooldown. Will still be on cooldown once the Aegis fades, so they could try to wait the next 40 seconds. Moonlight out though. Might look for the re-engage. They find AU, but even the Chen might be a bit too tough for them to handle. And just kind of forced back. Tier 2 still open to be shoved in as Natsumi jumps forward again, finds Raging, dispose out into the Illuminate. Raging does manage to leap away to 1 time. He's going to be able to get himself out to safety. And it's looking dire for T1. They just get dropped. And the confidence from Natsumi, it's hard to stop this Wraith King.
Yeah, I mean, this is, by the way, we haven't exactly seen like a blink throughout all this time. We haven't even talked about the fact that they have blink black hole on Enigma. Like, that's an insane team fight. Gabby, he might be in trouble here. Gabby, no, not like this.
Already popped the BKB earlier on. It's false, and the arrow out from Raging might at least find Xavius with a toss back on Carl.
That's something.
It's something, but they sacrifice Whitemon's well up top. So you sacrifice 2 for that 1 kill on Xavius. It's some much needed gold for T1. But the eggs in the basket of Gabby, it feels like they're all rotten now. It's really not achieving what they want to yet. I don't think we've even seen a Doom outside of that 1 laning phase Doom that didn't even land him a kill.
Yeah, I remember. I was going to ask you. I was like, did we actually see a Doom? Because I can't remember him using one. Every time I look at him, it's available. But that's the problem. Who do you doom? Natsumi, no. You can't doom him. It's pointless. He's got reincarnation. You can't doom the Chen. Sorry, not the Chen. Sorry, the Keeper of the Light.
Say your prayers.
Say your prayers for sure.
Now it's issues for Lelouch. That massive creep wave up top. Carl is going to be clearing it out. So, should stall that push just a little bit. Going ready is given. But, I mean, that's just AU. Natsumi with his summons getting a good clear. Getting that shove in on that tier 3 up top.
What a clean game, by the way, by Polaris. Like, they just played everything perfectly. Alright, Zeus does have the Aghanim Shard that does give you a ton of damage. Like, it's percentage, so it doesn't matter how far behind you are. He's going to be doing a significant amount of damage. This is a smoke. Realistically, T1, you only have a couple of chances to catch people and turn this game around. There's not much game left to play if you're losing at this rate.
Yeah, they got the good scan checking that top jungle, but they don't manage to work their way up there, and then all that downtime, just this continuous pressure from AU. Tower is just completely gone. Recall the creeps out of there. It's just gonna be fine. This cancelled off. They will be able to farm a little bit with Whitemon, but nothing of value is lost. This goes out from Savius, catches out Cuckoo again. He has the BKB, needs to get it off. Can he turn it on? Does manage to flick it on, trying to run, but the damage is done. Black hole coming out as well from Force in the middle of that, just to ensure the kills are found.
And right next to a ward.
Yeah, that Wraith Pack ward just mitigating so much of the output of T1, again ruining Carl's burst potential as they've got the opening for the racks. Fortify is out to stall, no buyback on Cuckoo, but fairly short respawns. They still have that Doom available, but they can't catch Lelouch, and that's the big one they want. Carl does blink again, does manage to get a good avalanche shots out, but the heals are there. They manage to stall out. Midnight Pulse on top of Carl, he's melting to the output. Natsumi rips through. Gabby can't do much, even with the BKB. Forced to run away, gets whipped by Natsumi.
Might be over.
Stunned up. They do find Xavius on the side, but Raging gets clipped away, and Natsumi with one big crit to seal the deal. Forcing the buyback out. Cuckoo is back up and running. BKB of his is still on cooldown. They just re-engage in Polaris. Rip right through. He's gone again for 40 seconds. As T1 just, they don't have angles. Look at Natsumi just blinking all over the place, finding these kills one by one. And T1 are forced to call the GG. Polaris rising up from the ashes here for game number 2, Autumn.
Like a phoenix, they did it. And I mean, the way they kept the aggression in the top lane, all of it, a lot of credit goes to Xavius being able to catch Cuckoo multiple times. I think they killed him like, what, 3 or 4 times during the laning phase alone? And that shut him down, because that's your... I was wondering, like, is it worse if he's an off lane who's shut down, or if it's the carry that's shut down? Either way, Razor being shut down is massive. The hero does not flash farm well. Hero needs a lot of farm to be useful, and gets most of it in the laning stage. Like, you have to have a good laning stage. Gabby wasn't joining fights with the Doom. It was all on Carl to do a good job at that game, and as much as he did, like 4-3-2, considering the game they had, that's very respectable. It's not enough. The Polaris, Xavius, MVP, and Force also with the Enigma, like these, it's all down to the top lane. The top lane just went way too good for Polaris.
And we saw again T1. I just keep going back to that point that they went for that lane swap. I mean, do you think they could have had a better game if they didn't swap those lanes? Would that have repaired that slower start they had early on?
I think so, because I'm not sure that, like, Shen Wraith King, was that going to be killing the Razor a lot? It's questionable, you know? You never know what happens if you go the other way, but yeah, maybe. Like, that Marcy as well as the Enigma just absolutely shut down the Razor, so maybe they could have swapped it down. Against the Wraith King, I think they could have done a little bit better.
We'll see if they do manage to repair. There is still one game left. The scoreboard is tied up now, 1-1. So Polaris do manage to keep themselves in the running here to go into Genting, and we'll see if they have what it takes to knock T1 out. Be a bit of a short break, but it is John X for an Ottoman, and we'll be right back for that game 3 reaction in a moment.
in general, it does feel like we're just having a repeat of game 1, which I didn't love. But we'll see. Viper coming out here. This could be a Viper 5 and Marcy 4, or it could be, Viper 3 with the Marcy. That's also pretty solid with the amount of slows. Still flex. I will say something about T1's draft in game 2 that bugged me. They were flexing so hard. At the end of the day, I was like, well, I don't think anyone really has a good lane to actually kind of go to, if that makes sense. Like, oh, we're going to pick Duo who can go in any lane. We can pick this in any lane. But they didn't actually have a hero that was really suitable for a specific lane. So I thought they flexed a little too hard.
Yeah, and we'll see if that's something they have in mind again, but it's Viper early on. I mean, it's very rare we see the Cuckoo hero in the first few phases, right? Like in this series, it's all been last pick Cuckoo heroes. Last time it was last pick Gabby hero. So we'll see what the idea is with a Viper and how they build up on a T1 though. Banning out the Jug, banning out the Nature's Prophet that Natsumi plays a ton of. And Polaris just respecting White Mon once more, taking care of that Winter Wyvern that had so much impact in game 1. For T1, what kind of ideas do you want to see from the draft? I mean, we've got some aggression out with the Marcy Viper. Anything else you'd like to see kind of built on that?
They might be going for some sort of heavy physical right-click damage on Polaris Esports because they do ban the Winter Wyvern. So they might be like, oh, we'll just take like a TA and life, like love heavy right-click. So T1 might consider something a bit tankier. We have we have talked about the Mars, but Mars just get banned. For T1, the Viper is pretty good though. Viper is pretty good if you are up against that physical right click, but maybe something a little bit like I was gonna say resistant to physical damage, but there's not a lot of that. And Polaris goes with the Warlock here. Lots of sustain on this team. A lot of sustain here. It's gonna be quite hard for T1 to bring them down because both Viper and Marcy take a bit of time to do their damage.
Yeah, it's just back to that sustain. We saw again Scam earlier today, but the effect of the Warlock, how great that healing can be. With the Death Prophet and Spirit Siphon, it's not been an easy time to kill off that DP. So of course, down the line, I don't expect it to be a Warlock DP lane, but down the line should have a lot more presence in this game. Fatal Bond sounds pretty good here as well, right? If you are running, say, a Lush Tiny, if they're all clumped up, Fatal Bonds plus Avalanche Toss, could kind of take care of T1 really quick as well. So I think clumping up for Polaris.
I think a Brewmaster might not be so bad for T1 because you do get that AoE Dispel, which would be pretty damn solid to have against the Warlock once he's throwing out those heals to the team, with the Shard. That might be something they consider going for, or putting people out in the air, just get rid of the Warlock to begin with. So I kind of like the Brewmaster here for T1. Because Oracle for Dispel, not really a thing. They might consider going Enchanters, but then you have to Dispel sort of like one person at a time. Once the Shard comes out for Warlock, that's not as good. So I'll be interested to see what they go with here. They go with... okay.
All right, so into the Gabby Morphling that he had... he had a great run of a Morphling in his time in TNC. That was when his old Ags allowed you to turn into your allied hero. Not quite the same now, but still a respectable Morphling player, of course. And we do see that Carl Puck we were talking about in the last game as a potential pick. So Carl gets his specialty out.
I like it. I like that he's got such a playmaking hero on the Puck. It does feel like, like we said, Tiny, you need a Blink Dagger or something to get active, whereas sometimes you just want to have a mid laner who's like, I want to be active for mid 1, basically. And Chaos Knight comes out. I'm not a fan of this Morphling pick at all for T1. In general, I just feel like Morphling is in a pretty garbage spot in general, and he might be able to lane kind of well, but if he's up against Tiny, he gets to take a huge amount of burst damage, silence from Death Buff and die. Just not a big fan of this Morphling pick.
Yeah, it doesn't feel very secure. I think the one thing you might have for T1 is at least the hold isn't amazing from Polaris, right? Like, especially for something like Puck. So Carl should be able to weave in and out, but it doesn't feel like a great Morphling game for the reasons you pointed out. It's not going to be too easy for Gabby to maximize here. And I love, a while ago you were talking about the CK for Polaris. It does come true here. Likely or not Sumi hero on the safe lane. It doesn't feel like they have the greatest wave clear to deal with those Phantasm evolutions, especially as they get tankier.
No, I mean, at one point they'll be just kind of unkillable. You still have a decent amount, with the waveform, with the rebound, with the Puck spells, they're all AoE. So it's not too terrible, but like you said, later on in the game, very hard to deal with them. Both teams, sorry about that, both teams kind of banning offlaners. Polaris thinking that this is going to be a support Viper, and I kind of agree with them. I do feel like a support position 5 Viper is kind of what Morphling needs, you know? Put put the Viper in the front line, let him poison attack, just harass, and Morphling can free farm.
Yeah, that could be something T1 goes for again. Staying in the pattern of last picking either the Gabby or Cuckoo here should be Cuckoo for this game out. Do you see anything that can tie this in for T1 in the offlane? If you see the Visage and Timbersaw band out, anything else that can maybe help them handle that CK early on?
I was actually going to say the Visage would have been a good pick for them. I don't know what they could really go for. Dragon Knight might be something they need. They need some sort of front line. I keep saying front line because that's really a lot of what it goes. But you can't have Mars to jump in without vision. Same thing with the Viper, same thing with the Puck. Morphling's not joining, so you do need someone like that. I'm thinking the Dragon Knight, because there's a lot of physical damage on Polaris that the Dragon Knight could sort of hold his own against.
Yeah, that DK could still fit in for Cuckoo on the offlane. Only a few seconds left for them to pick into this reserve time here. We'll go with a Razor once more, so Cuckoo Razor coming out again, support Viper, support Marcy, likely the outcome. There's some flex. You could maybe run the support Razor instead with a Viper core offlane, so you can kind of switch your hands around, but doesn't feel like they'll do that. Does this cover the gaps for T1? Is this a tanky enough frontliner to kind of cop the damage here?
No, I think that I don't like it, this Razor pick at all. I feel like, you who are you gonna static link? Chaos Knight and his 4 brothers? Like they're just, you can't take out one guy, the rest will all kill you. Death Prophet, her damage is not from right click. Warlock and Tiny don't care. So I don't like this Razor pick at all. T1, obviously they can win this game. Like, we might look like fools later, but I do not like this draft. Morphling takes too long. Razor, if he has a bad lane, we just saw what happens. Viper is fine as a support, falls off, but that's okay. Marcy's having a good game. I like Marcy, I like Puck, and I'm okay to the Viper, but I do not like these other 2 cores, and I feel like that just slows down T1. Polaris, on the other hand, good stun from the Chaos Knight, good team fight from the Warlock, they have good tower push. We'll see what they go with the last pick, but overall, I like Polaris a lot right now, with just 4 picks.
Yeah, they look pretty good. And Lelouch has quite the wide pool to still focus on here. And the Kunkka is still on hand, and Lelouch has played it quite a few times. Could be one way to kind of get that hold for Puck, hold for the Morphling as well. Have that stable X to play with. Void Spirits in the pool if they want that. The Silence could be really devastating for the Morphling until he gets his Manta VKB, if he goes for either of those as well. So, a lot of options left. Anything that stands out there? Like, for that mid?
Pangolier or something that with a lot of sustain is what I'm really looking for. So let's see what they go with. They go with the voice, like you said.
Select your heroes.
So nicely predicted, my friend John.
Yeah, I mean, Lelouch does love his Void Spirit, and again, it feels like a decent enough Void Spirit game. Where's the hold coming out from T1? You only have Dispose and maybe that Dream Coil coming out, and the stun from Morphling not particularly amazing, so only really 2 big stuns to worry about for the Void Spirit to dance around. It doesn't feel like Lelouch has much to be scared of. I guess Dream Coil Dispose is still strong, so that could be the early way of dealing with Lelouch, but that Ag's timing into that Void Spirit, it just feels scary. Do you feel like T1's kind of fixed the issues from last game, and they're back to that Razor offlane for Cuckoo?
I feel like the issues are worse, honestly, in this game. But Gabby on Morphling, the hero may be garbage, but as you mentioned, back in his TNC days, I actually played with Gabby once in a pub game, and he was Faceless Void. We were up against a Morphling Earthshaker combo, and I was playing Keeper of the Light. He's like, all right, just use your chakra, and I'll show you how you can beat it. Chakra on me, and I'll show you. He would walk in, force them out, and walk out, and this was before Backtrack was there. So he knows the hero backwards. He knows how to beat it. He knows how to play it. He's an amazing Morphling player. But the hero's garbage. Cuckoo is playing Razor, and he needs to scale. Or if he has bad lane stage, he's going to lose. I don't like T1's draft. I think it's a little worse than the previous game. Well, the same value as previous game. Let's be honest. Doom was pretty terrible in that situation.
Yeah, that wasn't the best showing at all from both Gabby and Cuckoo, to be fair, in game number 2. So we'll see if they can find some redemption here and stay on that path to Genting. Polaris, of course, looking strong. I mean, they looked a bit wonky game 1, bounced back in a big way in game 2. And here we are with a draft that I think you and I can agree does look a bit better here for Polaris. So T1 backs against the wall. These guys, all veteran players, but same thing for Polaris. And this little Rambulan of ours, Polaris, kind of hitting back well. So we will get into that game number 3 now. So what are things to watch out for? Like, what early timings are important for T1? Because in my eyes, I only really see Carl setting their tempo early game.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? It's Polaris has a lot more to work with, though. Like, even the Golem comes out, when Warlock has 6, that's a big team fight. When Void Spirit basically hits 6, he's also going to be able to go in and out of fights. Exorcism means that you can start taking towers. There's like a blink dagger on time. What's going on, man?
I mean, it's a Rambulan, you know, the two Filipino teams, mostly Filipino teams fighting up against each other here. And White Bond getting called out by Lelouch for some reason. Cuckoo does break the smoke, but they still find Raging Potato with a chain stuns, avalanche, and the little Chaos Bolt. Raging does have the rebound out. So it's going to be fine, but the rundown still there on Polaris. Still looking for someone. T1 does back off in the nick of time. So no first blood bonus for Polaris, but yeah, it's funny because Cuckoo was just all chatting the Noi Noi voice line of Polaris, because I guess he doesn't have it, so he's trying to join in on the fun there, just typing it manually, you know?
So what does it mean, Noi Noi?
Noi is like, you're calling for a person, you're calling for a guy you see. Noi Noi, and the rest of the lines, Ayo Noi ba, Ayo, it's like, stop it, stop it.
Well, we'll see which team was able to which team is going to want to win, who's going to win this, which team wants it to stop at some point. For now, it looks like Polaris starting off with 3 of those bounty ruins. Not what you want to see on T1, especially when you have the Razor who needs farm and say they're the Morphlink. Oh, Whitemon, what the hell is he doing here?
Yeah, he's really far back there, Whitemon.
You're on the other team, Whitemon. Come on, man.
That was an interesting pattern. There you go. The Noi Noi, Ayo Noi ba, Ayo is right there. So don't beat him up. Does get taken down anyway. Early first blood to break the pace here. See how the lanes develop. But that was a little bit awkward. T1 just giving it away.
I don't know. Did Whitemon be like, hey guys, is this, are we still on the dire side? Like, no, we're not. We're on the other team now. But a very interesting first blood to give away, and I think, at least go into Xavius, not Lelouch, but still, terrible for time to give away first blood.
Yeah, that was not ideal. Whitemon again, kind of getting caught out, and the damage out from Xavius is pretty big. Avalanche out as well, force keeping chase, and yeah, Whitemon can't quite run, forced to Fairy Fire, dead again? Dead again! What?
Under attack.
By the way, this might be something that a lot of people may not know, but Viper's actually, I believe, the slowest hero in the game, 275 movement speed. I think maybe Broodmother is slower at 270. But anyway, he's one of the slowest heroes. And Xavier starts off with boots. He's got, thanks to that first blood, now he's got tranquil boots. So he's at almost 100 movement speed faster. Easy for him to land those right clicks. Whitemon, walk of shame right now. How sad is this? A Viper walking to the lane.
Yeah, it's a very sad sight. Already a slow start for Polaris down bot. And I suppose this is just going to be a bit rough for Gav to deal with. One-on-one against the DT seems fine. Already early rotations out from Xavius. Snipes away the water rune away from Carl. So no bottle refill for him as well. Mid matchup for Lelouch and Carl. We have seen Void Spirit versus Puck, and it does rely on Void Spirit landing those 8 remnants every time and getting some damage off. Do you see any other openings here? Do you think Carl should be the shining hope for T1 to kind of take control here?
Yeah, because that it's an insane series of events that have led to them basically dominating the bottom lane. Thanks to Xavius getting that first blood. Now, Gabby's not suffering. He'll be fine in general, but Carl's gonna have to make some moves later on. Gabby?
Gabby, just going a little bit forward there. Does have level 2 morph or attribute shift, so it's not going to be in too much trouble here. Still have time to look at the other lanes. Taking a look up top, Natsumi and AU on the CK Warlock lane up against Cuckoo and Raging on the Razor and Marcy. So far, looking fairly decent for Cuckoo and Natsumi. They're not being held back from farming up here. Do you expect either side to look for aggression in this lane? I mean, you've got the Dispo static link, I suppose.
I think it would be definitely on T1 if they want to go for aggression. It's a bit hard because Natsumi's tanky and you have an AU has a heal, so it's not going to be the easiest skill. But if one of the team is going to, like, because I have to, gun to my head, pick one, I'd say that the Razor and the Mars are definitely a little bit more aggressive than basically any lane with the Warlock. Maybe if he maxes Upheaval. What do you think, John? Is that?
I like the spice there, Otto. I would not advise anyone to max Upheaval first, but that could be one way to catch Cuckoo out with a stance. The rebound speed is quite high, and you can't do damage when you're tossed back. There's the dispose as well. Lots of damage out from Cuckoo. Natsumi dropping low. Might be able to get the last right click, and they do. Cuckoo finds the first kill for T1 as AU start to drop low here. Might be able to run off. Not a rebound there. No dispose, but the stick charges are on hand. The heal's there, but Cuckoo gets double. So there you go for T1. At least the offlane's shaping up here.
Yep, and that's how I thought it would happen. Like it's tanky on Polaris, but the sort of all the damage is on T1. And Cuckoo, he's just gonna take his damage back. Natsumi, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah, runs right up. Plasma field out. One more right click. Cuckoo on a spree already. 4.5 minutes in with the tips out to Natsumi. And T1, we talked about Cuckoo having a pretty terrible Razor game last time. Shaping up to be a better one in this game.
Dude, and look at the CS. Natsumi's 13 CS only. Another thing is that Force on the top. I'm really surprised they kind of went to this pick again. Because game one, it wasn't amazing. Like, Xavier's having a fantastic match, but Death Prophet on Force did not look convincing in the first game.
Yeah, it really didn't. He is also, again, as you pointed out, not farming too well. Feels pretty free for Gabby, despite those deaths out from White Munsell. Getting the pulse, getting his presence up. Xavier hasn't been able to find the angles any further on that Tiny. So despite that, the wonky start, you got Boots and Whitemon, does get avalanched up, tossed back onto Force with a Spirit Siphon. Will just TP his way away. So, is back home, but he'll have to walk back, and he's still only 320 move speed, so it's going to be a slow process in.
It's not as bad as when he was 275 mid lane. They're going to fill up Carl's T close. He's almost level 6, though. And Lush will have to be a little bit careful now.
Yeah, Dream Coil ready. They've got the angle in the backline with Xavier's here as well, dropping some good wards. So both sides have some good vision to spot out each other's movements. And Lelouch can fall prey to this. Rebound out. Dispose is ready. Does not break the link. Lelouch still alive for now. Do they have enough damage? White Monster around. Avalanche to break off. And a good remnant to save. Lelouch gonna live. He lives.
Despite not having to simulate that infused raindrop doing work just now, but Carl's happy. He forces him out, gets the bounty ruin, and now T1 securely in the lead.
Yep, they managed to hammer it back their way. Carl now on the move. No Dream Coil, but looking for a play up top with Cuckoo, who has had that phenomenal start. Natsumi pushed all the way back in the tree line. They're scouting for him. This man should juke away. Carl is still checking. They're cutting some trees for Natsumi to escape. Should be fine. But the push is underway with a siege creep. Polaris gonna need to drag some more bodies and drag Lelouch in. Can they find the angle? They spot out Cuckoo, immediately blown away with Natsumi at the side. Carl, and showing up without the Dream Coil, can't get the control they need.
Oh, Carl, nice AU. He knows where he's going, but I don't know if he has enough damage to really threaten the puck here.
Not quite. They do manage to run out with a rebound. And Polaris finding some punches back and getting some good punishment of their own. Still looking like a strong start for T1, less than 1k lead their way with a rather even game, and Gabby is managing to get that build-up he wants on the Morph. Morbid Mask already up, a little bit of Life Seal to help with the farm, and just, not being contested by Force. Like, he's at level 6, he has Exo, he's not able to turn around anywhere. Smoke out from T1 with 2 supports here.
They're going straight for the Death Prophet, but she just moves back. Actually gets a couple of ping from her allies, be like, yo, go back. There's a nice ward here. I'm not sure if they smoked underneath it, but either way, Force, Spider Sense tingling. He's also getting very close to that Vitality booster. So once he has a Spirit Vessel, it makes it quite difficult for Gabby to do anything. He's going to go for a straight up Panther, so it won't be too much of a challenge for too long, though.
Shouldn't be. Bit of a clump up from Polaris top again. Trying to play forward with Natsumi. Doesn't quite commit onto it at all. Will commit onto Cuckoo now. Gets the stun, not the longest duration. Cuckoo immediately turns around. They've got the toss away from the link. It's not the most presence out from Cuckoo. AU just gonna TP home. Damage not quite enough to kill him off. No stuns coming out from T1 with Viper's support. So,
Yep.
it's gonna back away. Still 3-3. With all the movement across the map, do you worry that for Polaris that T1, again, Gabby's just left unchecked here?
Yeah, Theon's getting exactly what they want. Like, I was worried that this game would, with the draft that's happened, it's a little greedy, Razor off lane, more lane care, but no, they're getting exactly what they want. All their cores are in the top net worth, so they are seeing it's on Polaris to do something, they gotta fix the situation, take out one of these cores so they get some breathing room, because the way the game is going right now, it's all in on T1. Like, this 2k net worth lead means a lot more for them. With the win percentage, it's 6. Wait, is it really 60% for Polaris to win this? That seems kind of crazy. That win graph.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, that one, but you know what? The AI overlords aren't frequently wrong. Maybe just favoring that early momentum Polaris still can bring out. I mean, they still have Exorcism they haven't played with here. Polaris going for their own smoke play once more with the Lucian AU. Have the 2 charges to step up. Just need to gap close onto Gabby and get the chain control off. But it's Raging who makes the first move. Disposed back onto Force. The damage is great, but look at the burst!
Gabby!
He's just gone. The Fatal Bonds and Creep Wave with the damage from Lelouch is enough, and Raging TPing away, not enough. They get the clean kills. We talked about Fatal Bonds combos. The Void Spirit with the Resonant Pulse, he just melts him along with a step.
Radiant's bottom.
He was full agi. I mean, look at it. He's got 520 health. Yes, he got an infused raindrop, but it doesn't matter. And oh no, that is kind of a disaster. Well, it's fine. I mean, it's just gonna be a tower. Gabby a little too aggressive. They do his lots to me the same side. So overall, T1 not too bad. Not too bad. But Gabby dying like that, just a little bit too over aggressive, going all in on Agi.
Yeah, they went aggressive first. They jumped onto Force thinking they could burst him down quick enough.
White Mon
just managed to hold up. White Mon is TPing in for the defense here.
He revealed himself as well with another toxic. Other people are coming though.
Is under attack.
They're slowly TPing down. They managed to get them Carl with a DD. Should be enough to kill off Force with a silence. Dispo's out as well. Lelouch does manage to hold back, and Force is trying to heal it. It's just not quite enough. So Xavius gets a good avalanche off. Natsumi shows up with his damage. With a Phantasm, does manage to get 1 kill, but the Link is on him. Golden drop to cut this off. Natsumi still dropping low, is taken away. But can Lelouch clean up? Finds one more. Raging does fall.
Just the supports falling
so
from
far.
T1.
Not the big kills they want. And they did commit Golem for that back off as well. Cuckoo not done. Wants AU. Does get flipped by the Remnant. Lelouch still looking to play here. Cuckoo dropping low. He doesn't even find AU. AU still running. Carl not going to go for the orb, so they kind of even it out.
Yeah, a little bit like Polaris with that last good 8th Remnant, by the way, catching the Cuckoo.
Carl finds Lelouch, silences off, but not going to tempt fate. Does not have mana on Carl, so doesn't get that opportunity to punish Lelouch. Yeah, just so back and forth. And Polaris this time around, maybe overstepping their bounds a bit. They will manage to get that bot tier 1 to trade.
Is under attack.
And by the way, Chaos Knight, he was thinking of going for the Armlet. He's going to go for the Midas instead. So kind of, like the Doom from Gabby in Game 2, where the carries it's like, I'm just going to farm. He might need it, though. He is 1-4-1 on Natsumi on the Chaos Knight. Level 7 in 12 minutes. This is not what you want your carry to be at all. This is where you want him to be, 8 minutes, 7 minutes. And he is very far behind.
Yeah, he just gets picked away with a Viper Strike. Lelouch not in time to help, although might find Raging. Good Remnant out from Lelouch. Avalanche toss with the Tumbler's Toy as well. They find another Carl, trying to hold him back, but here comes Force to cut off Whitemon. With the Spirit Vessel up, Whitemon not going to have too much life left here. Lelouch will have the step up and running immediately in. Onto Cuckoo next. And getting a lot of value from that Spirit Vessel, but not quite enough damage this time around. They cut their losses 2 for 1 again, trading off AU earlier on, but they're not done. Xavius keeps that chase, finds Cuckoo, tosses back. Cuckoo trying to link his way away, but not going to be enough to save, and they get the kill. Carl pretty low on mana, does have the coil. The silence is there. He's not even going to be able to find punishment onto Xavius.
They don't even have, they just dropped the ward right now. They want to take over this Radiant Jungle Force. He's here, he's with the Exorcism. Raging Potato. I think he spotted him for a second, but they decided not to go for it. So this is good. They are closing up the map a little bit, and Cuckoo's starting to fall behind now. Not by much. He's still keeping up with Natsumi, but this is a good thing for them. They can just get a couple more kills on Cuckoo, delay his BKB, turn him into a bit of a non-factor right now, because he's had a solid game before this, like right until that couple of deaths.
Whitemon gets caught out, silenced up as well. Xavius does have the toss if need be.
Not again, Whitemon.
Trying to run away. Viper Strike does not work, and he is just taken out once more. He does get some wards down. That should be spotted out by Polaris, but they don't quite have the D wards on hand with Xavius. They have some information to play with. It's better Whitemon than Gabby, right?
For sure. Xavius is getting close to that blink dagger though, so that's something to worry about because we've seen these blink tinies. Just send on someone back, you get a pick off. You need to be a bit careful. It's still about 500 gold for it, but there you go, pushing mid.
Pop the EXO out. Defense coming out from T1. They are in position. Carl still has a Dream Coil. Cuckoo is around the area as well with a haste, but it's spotted out by the illusions of Lelouch. So, non-committal push out from Polaris, just standing back with the DP, letting the EXO do its work. And T1 not pushing the envelope too hard either. They are inching closer towards that blink here on Polaris with Xavius. The tiny blink almost online in that pause 4, but it does feel like they don't want to just put Lelouch in firing line. So they need that backup in the tiny.
Yeah, plus he's what's he got? He's only got Spirit Vessel, and that's it. There's not really defensive item. Unrefused Raindrop, Null, Soul Ring. He doesn't have items that will just be enough to sustain him, so you can't just throw Force up there. So they are trying to be careful. Plus, they just want to give Natsumi time to farm. He is catching up. Third in terms of net worth. His Midas is paying off, but he still needs a little bit more time.
Yeah,
and can't afford the map to get to get smaller before that.
Yeah, just getting what he can while he can. And that build up has 1,000 gold in bank. And Polaris now just playing patiently. Blink almost up in Xavius. Well, after a creep, he should have that gold up and running. And that should be the moment where Polaris might try to kick it into gear once more. Lelouch going for his own Yules to save from the control. And Force probably going for his BKB. It is finishing up the wand first. So still no defensive items for that frontline DP as you mentioned here. And with this slower pace of game, it does feel like you start to think about the morphling towards the late game, right? Think, initially laning isn't great for Gabby, but it is still a morphling towards the late game. It can still be big.
I mean, it can, but there's a reason we haven't been seeing a lot of morphling competitive play, because the hero is just not incredible. I don't think that, I don't think he outscales a Chaos Knight. So I don't think that the Polaris have to be worried about that. Although mid lane...
Oh, jump forward, Dispos out onto Xavius as he blinks in. Didn't manage to get the avalanche before that, as he is going to lose Force, but to get the stun on Raging. Maybe they find at least that support in Marcy. Lelouch doesn't have an additional jump. Remnant does connect. One more right click to do the drop. Meanwhile, Carl cleans up on the sides. Going on to AU now. Lelouch trying to get some hits off. AU still being chased down. Still has the Golem. Doesn't get picked off, but does lose his courier. So 2 for 1 in the favor of T1. Unfortunate for Xavius. That was his blink reveal into the Dispos.
Yeah, it's like, dude, just walked into it. Very unfortunate for him. And like I said, this is sort of going to be a big reveal. You're hoping to catch some core, toss them back, but it's fine. It's not the biggest issue here. The tower still stays alive. So even though T1, they call us a little bit of golden experience injection, not exactly the objectives on the map, so it's fine. It's not too big of an issue. Natsumi, I think he's going to go for the Echo Saber here. So wait, is it coming? Yeah, it is going to be the Echo Saber. Doesn't really, again, he just wants to keep farming. I wonder if he'll disassemble that to make the BKB, or if he's just going to be like, no, I'll keep this for a while longer.
Yeah, just again building up, being allowed to get what he wants. He is still behind Gabby, about 1,000 gold behind. The Morphling now just starting to flex its farming muscles with how much space Gabby's been given after that awkward lane. Going into the BKB next for him. For Polaris, they are smoked up with the 2 supports, but they're not linked up with any force, so it's just a warding run for Xavius, it looks like.
Need to be a little bit careful here. The BKBs are going to come out on the Razor soon. Gabby already has the Manta, which means that this Spirit Vessel that Force spent about like 3,000 gold to get, it's going to lose a lot of effectiveness very soon.
Yeah. Then that's what they've been banking on, right? To soften up these targets, to make it easier to manage Gabby when you do spot him out. Not going to be as effective any longer. They do turn Gabby into the CK, just play tag with illusions. not really jumping on Natsumi himself. They are kind of preventing that flash farm with illusions at the very least a little bit longer. And again, Polaris just keeping this game pace slower. They want Natsumi to build up. They are risking it with a Morphling being allowed to build up as much as he has right now. What timings might we be looking for from Polaris? Because they've got that Blink and Xavius after that reveal mid. They haven't been playing with it too much.
Yeah, this is kind of surprising, but it seems like they're just going to wait for their BKBs. Force is building one. If Chaos Knight, sorry, Natsumi is building one. Lelouch is going for the Aghanim Scepter. That's a bit of a ways off. So we'll see what they're going to go with. But a couple of BKBs will help them out a lot. If you look at T1, they don't really have anything that goes through BKB. Static Link, yes. And as well as like the Eye of the Storm. But that's like physical damage. That's not really something that anything can stop. So BKB on Natsumi, BKB on Force could be a big deal for them.
Carl finds Xavius, immediate Dream Coil out. Snap is there with the Avalanche though. Xavius might be able to run his way off. They do spot out Gabby. He does Strength Morph in time, so he's a lot harder to kill off right now. They have the Golem drop, perfectly chain stunned. They actually kill him off. The damage from Natsumi, the crits from the Phantasm is enough to carry them through. So they find the big one.
Dude, Lelouch was able to get an Aether Remnant while 3 creeps were standing there. Like, that's amazing. That was just, what a play. I love how he could do that. I don't know how he even managed it. You gotta go watch this replay. And really good timing from AU, saving that Golem just to make sure they're stunned.
Avalanche toss out onto Kuku into the Remnant as well. The timing's perfect. Pops the BKB and dies. Fresh BKB not doing much as the Exos pop. Trying to get more. Carl does clean up on Xavius eventually. But with Kuku dying again, they don't mind. So Polaris just finding the angles, just kicking it into gear and punishes T1.
Man, Kuku. Dying is fine, but that's your best BKB. You know, it doesn't get better than that. That's a 9-second BKB. That's the first BKB you're gonna get, and he just used it literally a millisecond before he was about to die. Ouch. I don't know which one's worse, that or Gabby dying, but either way, they're gonna go for Roshan here. This is pretty sneaky from T1. I like it.
And they smoke up, they go into the pit. Sidekick on the Morphling is a lot of damage, and he does have the life steal from the Morbid, so not going to be too hard for him to do that. There is a fight breaking out by the Rune, but there's a puck, very hard to pin down for Polaris, and the blink is out from Carl, so he's stalling out well. They're so focused in there that they don't bump in, but Natsumi's checking with illusions, does find that out, and they might find Raging Fritter trouble. The stun is there, they get a kill, and now they get the opportunity for Roshan. Meanwhile, Polaris still chasing across the map. They manage to catch out Kuku. The Link is there to hold back Lelouch. Gabby is ready to play with his own Remnants. Does actually clip Lelouch somehow. Not enough to really net the kills. And eventually Polaris, they might find this Roche. Dreamcoil is still down. That's a big one for Polaris to sneak away themselves.
I cannot give enough praise to Lelouch with the Aether Remnant, because that killed Gabby, which led to them going mid to kill Kuku, which allowed them to, like, later on sort of slow down T1, where they were like, all right, let's go for the Roshan, which was a little bit risky. Polaris sniff it out, get the kill. Like, it all comes down to an amazing play by Lelouch. That moment is I always look at the games and there's like the certain moments where you're like, okay, this game turns on its head. And that was a very game-turning moment by Lelouch. Sorry, Lelouch.
They just managed to find that opening. They forced T1 to make these plays, and they still have the foresight to check the pit while they were split up and get the punishment. Now you've got the BKB on Natsumi with the Echo Saber disassembly. Going for that blink next. Carl still hanging around the area, is still fairly mobile on the puck. Is going to be able to run off the Remnant. The instant blink out from Carl. Lelouch not going to nail it this time. They've got the opportunity for the push in. You know, we were talking about the sustain game in that drafting phase here, Automa. They've got the shard up on AU. So all the heals in the world to come out here now.
I was going to say, I was like, oh, there's the shard. And it looks like maybe going for a Glimmer Cape right after, just so that all that magic damage from T1 won't bother them. Could go for a Holy Lock as well. You get so much shield.
Raging with the Invis does manage to break the smoke rotation out. Sentry is just a bit too late. Raging still hanging around the area, still outside vision. He is actually using that Invis well, giving so much key information towards T1, but he does walk into the range now. The stun is coming through. Avalanche as well. Natsumi grabs another. Kuku coming in though. Does have the static link, but is forced to BKB and tried to keep chase. Is still being tickled by the illusions, but it's enough to shove them out for now.
I am absolutely in love with this game. Oh,
Blink,
Xavius, he's
stun
not
out from
done.
Xavius, toss back as well. Whitemon, that pause 5 Viper. You talked about it scaling here, Otmo. It certainly feels like it's kind of run its course.
Yep, he's 0-7. He has officially, he's turned into Viper. He was doing well and he Vipered it up, basically. The support Viper. And at this point, I don't know, maybe it's Morbin time. Gabby's got to do something. He's got the Morbin mask. He's morphling. It's time for him to Morbin and do some stuff because it's a very tough situation. He's not far from the BKB, but he's up against a Natsumi with an Aegis. He's ahead in terms of net worth. Morphling, he could sort of run around and maybe make a little bit of space, but you can't TP as long as Aegis are around. It just drops a golem on you. He doesn't mind.
Yeah, they've been really disciplined on Polaris to hold onto that golem for key moments. T1 though, going for a smoke play now of their own. Looking for an angle in, maybe just retake control of their triangle. No forward wards placed by Polaris, just a whole bunch of sentries. Block some camps. Still looking for the flank onto that top jungle. They might be able to find Xavius, but that is just a support tiny here. Does have his Force Staff and the Courier, turns it back at the right moment. So, a little bit of a movement does not pan out at all for T1 as they're forced to show mid. That mid tier 1 for Polaris still stands. They've not been able to make inways in this game in terms of objectives, and now Polaris is well smoking up. Could find a good flank into the rear all across the map though. So a little bit of a walk for them. But they have a general idea as to where T1's at, because they weren't in the triangle, they weren't in that bot jungle. She might catch out some stragglers. Lelouch ags up.
Interesting item, by the way, on the Chaos Knight. He's got the Mage Slayer, so a lot of the magic damage reduced by T1. They already have BKBs on Polaris, so this Puck, it's gonna have problems dealing the damage. Like, he's going for Kaya, he's doubling down on more magic damage, but I don't know if it's gonna be enough. Polaris, are they gonna find him? Can they get the backstab going?
No, they catch out Xavius, that gives him the info. Instantly blowing up Xavius. But Natsumi's still in the area. Aegis only a minute left. Bit of a dicey timing for Polaris as they won't engage further. T1 as well, just go for that tier 1 down mid. They finally get some much needed control on the map at least, cutting off a little bit more of that access in the jungle. Do you feel like Polaris has done enough of this, Aegis? Like, only half a minute left here.
I think so. I mean, they were able to get the outpost bottom. They only lost Xavius a couple of times. Like, it's not the biggest deal,
Getting twacked away. He's still slippery on the Morbling.
Blink in 2 seconds. Natsumi's gonna go for it.
Holds off. So, still not quite can jump out. And then, again, Lelouch with the Axe. We haven't quite seen him use it in the middle of these fights yet. Invis grabbed up. Silence was there to cut off any counterplay from Lelouch. So, just slipping away. 2k lead still stands for Polaris. At what point would you say the Morphling becomes to start that Morbling, where it's just really hard to deal with?
I don't think there's any real point. Like I said, I don't think this hero is in a good spot right now. I don't think that he'll ever outscale the Chaos Knight any significant way, so there's no point where you look at Gap and you're like, yep, he can definitely 1 versus 5 this game, It's going to have to come down to him and the support staff. Maybe you can do something with Carl, with the Dream Coil, like level 25, where you pierce immunity. That's something like that. It's not going to come from Gabby himself, like only Gabby, basically. Kuko is getting close to that refresh orbs. Not, I say close, he's still about like 1,500 gold away from it, but that could help. Bottom lane, though, they're not waiting on Polaris.
Yeah, getting a bit of shove into that tier 3. Phantasm is already down, but not the longest cooldown in the world. Aegis has expired, so protecting Natsumi in the backside. Silence is enough to shove him away. And Polaris don't fully commit. Instead, trying to TP out. Lelouch might look for a kill onto Whitemon. One step out, another step out. The Remnant lands, and that's going to be a kill on the Viper once more. For strike out, at the least. So you can tickle Lelouch before dying, but it's a freebie for Lelouch once more.
Dire's middle tower.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Like, you can't really say anything about the Viper anymore. It's just like, well, he died. But what he's doing is he's going out, he's sort of forcing them to try to kill him, he's pushing out the lanes. It's really the best use of his, hero right now. As for Polaris, they were down to 2k lead, now they're still back up 4. And, we talked about the AI overlords. Maybe they were right, We were like, no way, it's T1. Yeah, they had the gold advantage, 3k gold advantage, and still favored Polaris by 60%. And now, oh, AU though might lose his life here. Throws a golem.
Drop the golem first, but is going to be taken out for this. Drops a Shadow Word as well. Maybe just looking to chip away. His team is nearby, but the scan is out from T1, so they're going to be able to back off. Although Lelouch finds Whitemon, Age Remnant out, does clip with a Force Staff, and he's just instantly gone. Gabby coming in with a Void Spirit form. Not going to commit. So support for support. They did force out Golem. That's still, it's like a pretty good trade for T1 in the end.
Yeah, I think they'll be happy with that because now they can feel a little bit more confident. And the person they're killing, the Warlock, he's doing a lot. You know, the Shadow Word spam as well as the Golem, a BKB piercing ability. So killing him is a big deal, especially getting the Golem out of it. Well, I mean, not killing him, but getting the Golem is a bigger deal than killing him. But losing Whitemon, you don't care. Like, he's 0-9. And if he goes 0-15, it won't matter.
Yeah, could be lined up for a Milk Award as Legends go, you know. Try to hit 0-15, no kills, all the deaths, a few assists, and still win the match. Let's see if that is something T1 can pull off. Polaris, I mean, they still maintain 4K, but it's not like it's been building up too much. T1's been able to at least keep that same growth within them as well in terms of net worth. So Gabby's not lagging too far behind. Carl's also up there on the puck. BKB up and running. Fresh 9-second charge. And into the Kai. Sanj, with a stat resist is going to be big. I do get a little bit worried for Polaris, right? Like, puck towards late game is actually a menace. Level 20 talent up into 25. Piercing spell immunity. That fixes a lot of T1's issues.
And he's also got the ceremonial robe, so that's an extra reduction of 10% for them. His magic resistance as well as stats resistance with the Kaya. So he is doing a significant amount of magic damage, even against all these, you know, Glimmer, Capes, and BKBs, and as well as Natsumi's, what's it called, sorry, Mage Slayer. So Carl's still a threat. Roshan's up at 40 seconds. I don't think Polaris will push the issue until they have the second Aegis. You know, they're like, let's get second Aegis, secure the game. You win this, you're in the lower bracket finals. You lose this, you have no chance of going to Ginting. So this is a big match for both teams.
Yeah, they've got to find a way to carry through both sides. Last game for the lower bracket series here. Refresh already up on Cuckoo, so you know, the Razor does hit its stride, still not too durable. Don't have anything like a casual plate mail to sustain through the damage of Natsumi. Polaris are just camping around Roche, waiting for the respawn. They know the timer, only a few seconds away. T1 should be able to get a read. They are grouped up for the smoke. Might be able to get a good scouting out. Natsumi backs off before he sees Roshan back up. So
I don't know if they saw
might
it.
Miss out.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no pings or anything. Natsumi might need to walk in again here. Full smoke by T1. Oh, that could have been a thing. Xavius breaks the smoke.
Very nicely done. T1 forced to go down onto the triangle instead and regroup. Polaris still holding their area in the jungle. Natsumi gonna go check again. He still has that DD. Jumping forward with Raging, not gonna fully commit. And Orochi is being started by Natsumi. Still playing tag down mid, but the CK solo with a DD could find that second Roche with the Ag Shard. Could be massive to give away to Natsumi or Lelouch for the mobility. And T1 are in the complete wrong side of the map bottom. When they're down bot, they just snuck away with a smoke.
Yeah, this is going to be an issue for them because this might be the side, the thing that Polaris needs to go high ground, and he wants to kind of give it away for free. They misjudge where Xavius is. Xavius kind of freaked them out instead. Oh, that's confusing. I was like, this is going to take it. So nice shot for the Chaos Knight as the Aegis in the pocket. It's still not a massive lead for Polaris. Like, you look at the net worth, Carl's right up there, Gabby's right up there as well. Cuckoo's suffering a little bit, but still not the biggest deal. It's really the supports that's actually the only real difference in net worth comes from the support. Through that 5k, 3 of it is from Xavius having an absolutely stellar game. He's got Force Staff, Blink Dagger, and he's going to go for an Aeon Disc in a second as well.
It's just going to be able to provide all that utility out for Polaris. Another smoke out from Polaris this time, looking for the chase. They only really see Whitemon, as you mentioned, not really a priority target 096. They clear out the tier 2 down bot for T1. So Gabby's getting some room to kind of get the damage off. Does have the Scotty up in the Morphling. So he's got a good amount of stats, great damage coming through, can mitigate some of that healing coming out. Carl, being sneaky, no ward to watch. And you managed to at least stop that. Xavius, again, just playing tag up top as well, holding back the high ground push that T1's trying to split up. And Polaris, I mean, what is it that we have to see from them? They've got the Aegis for 3 minutes 40 here. What should they achieve with that?
But I mean, Polaris, they want to push. They'd like to go high ground. Well, what happens is what you just saw. You know, Carl pushed bottom lane. Then someone's like, "All right, gotta defend." They don't want to take a fight with less people. Like you can tell when a match has so much online, teams are a little bit more careful. They're not going to go in with only 4 people high ground. They want to wait for everyone. So Polaris, if they could get a kill on a Carl, that would be the best thing they could get for them to push high ground. Carl has BKB though.
Smoke breaks, instantly stunned up.
Gabby.
Avalanche shots as well. Golem drop as well. Gabby's just gone. Just instantly taken away. The chain stunts are perfect coming out from Polaris, holding him down long enough. That was a BKB pop from Natsumi. But the tips are out. No buyback on Gabby. This could be their opening for high ground. Savius hunting for more, but T1 has managed to retreat fully. Raging is still straggling here. No blink out though. Cuckoo kind of just looking for a split push. They are still hunting, diving into the high ground here. Catching out Carl. Remnant tanked out by Whitewand. Luna's job is to support. BKB a popped open by Carl. Tossed back by Xavius. Onto Raging is going to be a sitting duck. Taken away as they drag Cuckoo back in. Avalanche does not do much with the BKB, but so does the static link. Just doesn't achieve much with the 4 stabs up.
Half duration exorcism though.
Not too much time left in the XO. No creep wave as well. It is coming in now. But the Aegis still stands for 2 minutes. They forced the Fortify out early as well. But they fortified back to hold on to this creeps. Buyback from Raging. They want to find that opening. Upheaval being channeled by AU in the back line. Dream Coil already. They have the Dispose combo onto Lelouch. They force that away. Does have the ults to save. Cuckoo with a BKB once more on the refresh. But they still lose Raging. They take out the Aegis on Natsumi, but here comes Lelouch on the re-engage, taking out Cuckoo. No buyback on him as Natsumi jumps forward. Once Carl will find him.
God.
A triple kill on Godlike for Natsumi. Onto the racks they go. And it's Gabby against the world. No buybacks left for T1. They could try to rush for the tier 4s. They've got the damage and they will do so. Polaris sensing that opening. And Gabby, I mean, he's got all the farm in the world. Sure, not as much as Natsumi, but he hasn't been a factor. He's been caught off guard way too much.
Yeah, he's literally 1-3-0. It's very unfortunate.
Oh,
he's
comes from BKB trying to make a last stand here. Might find Natsumi. The toss away in the Glimmer Cape. Saves Natsumi. The BKB as well to dodge the damage. And they're still onto those tier 4s. Natsumi
no BKB on Gabby now.
No BKB on Gabby as well.
He does have a chaos
just keeps going. Buyback on Carl. No Dream Coil yet. Avalanche does not connect. Yules is there to save BKB out from Carl. But there goes Gabby back in without the BKB. Doesn't really find anyone. Does dive. He's gone. The GGT1 out of the running for Genting and Polaris. This lineup that struggled in Div 1, that didn't find a series win, beats out a team that was in the major in Stockholm.
Dude, my God. I mean, I thought it was going to be a good defense from them because they were able to sort of hold them back. But then Raging Potato, he buys back, falls right when they kind of need him. It all comes down to like a couple of moments in the game. And one of them, like that moment with Gabby when he went to, there was no vision there. There were no wards there. But so he gets caught and loses his life. No buyback in that situation. Polaris, they smell blood. They had the Aegis. They wanted to push anyway. They get the kill on the enemy carry. They're like, let's just go. Let's just go, go, go. They take full advantage of that. And that was basically it. Polaris, that was all the opening that they needed to win the game.
And that was phenomenal out from Polaris. This is a team, again, that got beat down in Div 1, that had multiple roster shakeups, that came in with another revitalized roster, bringing Coach AU in as a player, now taking all these steps to change it up, and it looks like that Polaris we saw in Tour 2, which was a major contender, is back in some form. A bit too late to kind of have that shot at Arlington, but definitely in time to try and make it onto Ginting. And we already know who Polaris is facing off against tomorrow. They will be up against Talon. How do you feel about that matchup potentially coming out here for the lower bracket finals?
I think Polaris could surprise us. I mean, I went into this match saying, you know what? T1 looks better. Like I was just going to say, T1's better. And no, Polaris outplayed them. And honestly, Lelouch, God, man, that it all comes, like we said, it all comes down to that moment where he kills Gabby, then they go and kill Cuckoo, and then they take the mid lane. That was insane. They were able to get the Roshan right after. It's so crazy because other than that, T1 played they were keeping up, but that was a huge move by Lelouch. So I think they can take it. I'd be impressed. I look forward to the match tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we saw some big plays coming out from Polaris. For T1, again, just to tie up the series, what went wrong? Because it looked like they had such a great game 1. Maybe game 2, you can blame it on flexing the lanes a bit. In game 3, I mean, they go for the Gabby special in the Morphling. He has a lot of farm, but he just doesn't have that impact. I mean, what happened?
He got caught out a couple of times, like even in the lane. I think at one point when they were when it was full agi, it was like pretty early in the game. He went in, they tried to kill. Wait, let me check the hero. I think they tried to kill Force on the Death Prophet. He loses his life. So, and after that, he plays very passive. Remember, he ended the game at 1-4. Like 1-4-0. He was not involved in any kills. He was very passive the whole game, and he just kind of died a few times. They weren't even worried. You look at Natsumi though; he's ready. He's got Blink Dagger just because he wants to fight. So, Whitemon also not like when you play Viper, you either go 3-0 or you go 0-6, and he went 0-6. So that's also a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, that early death behind the tier 1 in front of the tier 2 was awkward, and the instant death back, he had to walk back to lane. A lot of factors not quite lining up for T1, but what an explosive game from Polaris to drag it out. I mean, again, such a comeback story for them. They had a great time before Tour 3, like they were champs of the BTS Pro Series. Tour 3 kind of floundered, coming back in form for this qualifier, and we'll see if they have what it takes to beat True